The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfits. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Kind of speechless. Don't know what to say. The Bills are on their way to the AFC Championship game. We are celebrating this afternoon in snowy Rochester on a Victory Monday with Bruno Martino.
Roma non fa la stupida stasera. Dammi una mano a fare di desì.
We need a supercut. Dan DeLorean, I know you're listening. We need a supercut, pal.
Oh,
Mix in some highlights into Bruno Martino. As far as all y'all know watching us on the YouTube stream at the Fan Rochester, I've got espresso in my mug.
How was this guy not bigger than Sinatra? These tones.
How's that sound, Mafia? We welcome you into the sports bar. Rochester's only local sports talk show, and yeah, we're feeling ourselves today, man. It is a Victory Monday. The Bills take care of the Ravens at home. They go undefeated for the season at Highmark Stadium, and they've set themselves up for a date with the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead coming up Sunday evening.
Bills fans, you went to the game last night. How are you feeling today?
How are you feeling today?
I'm talking to everybody. I know we have a lot of listeners outside of Rochester, okay? But I have never seen the traffic that bad getting out of the stadium. So if you're watching last night, guess what happened right as soon as the game ended? And you got to see a little bit of the post game. Yeah, the snow started coming down, and, well, that, and people were just kind of hanging out. I didn't get home till 2 a.m.
Wow.
Didn't get home till 2 a.m. Took care of my normal business after the game.
Yeah.
And for a game that ended at 9:30 Eastern time, but you know what? I'm not complaining.
I think a lot of people would say no sympathy, Gino, because even if you didn't go to the game and you stayed home, you're wired. I was wired after that game.
So, look, we're happy and groggy. Is that kind of a good feeling here? I would say yes.
For sure. It's a great feeling. We're going to recap everything from yesterday at the stadium, look ahead to Sunday at Arrowhead. Our guests joining us this afternoon here in the sports bar include Nate Geary, the Buffalo Bills radio network. You hear him on the pre- and the post-game show, and you said he was working until 1 a.m.
They were taking calls till 1 a.m. last night. So thank you, Nate. Did a great job, bud. So I want to have Nate on today, talk a little bit about, because he's got takes on everything here as we enjoy the Ravens win. It's Chiefs week.
Yep.
It's here. Yep. This is what we asked for. Here it comes.
The Ravens win means absolutely nothing if they can't get it done in Kansas City. I'm not going to remember this season as the season we beat the Ravens in the divisional round. It means nothing.
No, it would be, this is the third time you've lost in the postseason at Arrowhead. First time being, okay, you're a young and up-and-coming team, the first AFC championship that, none of us could get together for. Then 13 seconds, and now here we are. So, yes, it's a Chiefs team that some would say has had luck on their side, and their luck should run out right now. I look at a team that is very well coached, and they know how to manage games. And they have the best coach in the game today. Mike Danger, you would say the best coach of all time.
From a wins and losses standpoint, he's going to be viewed as the most successful NFL head coach of all time.
Yeah, so where the Ravens game was a big test you passed, Yeah, now this gets even better. We'll talk to Nate Geary coming up at 4:25.
The Icon stops by later this hour. Give us like 20 minutes or so, and we'll get 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana, the Hall of Famer, joining us here in the Sports Bar with his thoughts this afternoon.
I want to talk about McDermott with Mike Catalana because, to me, that was his finest hour yesterday. You had one penalty called against you.
And it was a
BS
penalty. Yeah.
Like, look, if you need a better example, one penalty, which shouldn't have been a penalty, no turnovers against a team that's fighting for their season. Like, did you think the Ravens were just going to roll over there in the second half? No, I thought that was one of, if not the best coaching jobs that Sean McDermott has done. Mike Catalana coming up at the bottom of the hour.
We welcome you into the Sports Bar. You can pull up a stool anytime this afternoon. The Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in ER, goodsmokebbq.com.
Want to thank everybody who came out to our event at Three Heads on Friday. So thank you to Steve and Ron DeCoy. Thank you to Linda. Thank you to Greg. Thank you to the Gordon family. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jody.
Frank, we got to meet Frank, who came out and said hi to us.
Yes, Frank, who big Amerks fan. It was cool. So, and got to see Brad in Rochester, who I didn't remember meeting him the first time. Does that count as a big time?
Kind of.
Brad is one of our regulars on the phones here.
Love
He's
Brad.
always got takes.
No, the best. I mean, everybody who came out on Friday really got the weekend, set off in the right direction. And I know we're forgetting people that were there as well that we didn't get a chance to say hi to or spend a lot of time with. I know that Greg brought by as a prop. He's like, we're like Carrot Top now with this not having heat in the studio bit, but he has given us a thermometer to check the temperature here in the studio.
So they must have worked on it over the weekend. Like, I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, here's my proof. 66.
All right.
Well, that's
Yeah,
that's
I
fine,
mean,
yeah.
if you want a comfortable 72,
Can you vouch, though? Can you back me up on this? It wasn't 66 when we didn't have the thermometer.
Didn't feel like it.
No, and we'll get to a day later this week where, it's going to be in the 50s.
Yeah, at minimum, we have to thank Greg for keeping us honest. We'll have this thing in here throughout the course of the next few days here when it gets really, really cold, and we'll see just how low it gets in here, or if they have indeed fixed it. Pizza Dude was giving me all kinds of hacks. You could leave the door open, and if you open up the door to the foyer, which is right to your left, some of that hot air might come into your side. Like, how about we just fix the problem? We could do that too, right?
Yeah, or somebody walking by the hallway who's having a conversation. I really don't think they want to be joining us on the air. So normally you shut the studio door. But thank you, Pizza Dude, and thank you whoever might have worked on that over the weekend.
And again, a big thanks to everybody who came out to the live show at 3. A big thank you to Adam Terry. I mean, Adam Terry spent a good hour with us there in the 5 o'clock hour, former Ravens lineman, and really kind of laid out what this matchup is all about, what he is a guy who played the game, what they go through, having to play in a game of that magnitude was just great insight. And for anybody that wonders, like, NFL dudes, you can tell an NFL dude when you see one. Like they're like Adam Terry played in the NFL years ago, but when you see him, you're like, oh, that guy played in the NFL. It's just obvious.
Which, when they get out of the game, they're so much more open. They have the stories. They can provide the context. Yeah. People say, why don't you have – we do a training camp, and that's a different setting. But right now, I'm in the locker room last night, Danger. If anybody wants to know how focused this team is.
Yeah.
Okay. You would think that Deion Dawkins is the most media-friendly guy. He didn't make himself available last night.
Really?
No Deion Dawkins, no Greg Rousseau, no Ed Oliver, no Von Miller. They all left before the locker. And so you could like, oh, how could you do? No. I respect that, and I kind of like it because you could say things about the Raven game, but you know what? In about 12 hours, that's old news. So why am I going to waste my time? We're on to the Chiefs. Now, if you beat the Chiefs, you get to the Super Bowl, they'll all be talking. But that locker room, when it was open last night, not too many Bills players available, and I think that was by design. We don't need to talk about this. We've got bigger games coming up.
And and I think that they still have that chip on their shoulder. The idea that you're playing a team that has how many Pro Bowlers? Nine Pro Bowlers. 9 Pro Bowlers for the Baltimore Ravens, and now guess what?
9 times.
All 9 of them can go and enjoy the Pro Bowl without any schedule conflicts.
Yeah, it's been a day of receipt. I have seen that Emmanuel Acho clip come across my feed how many times. I've seen this back and forth. Here's the bottom line. If it's working for the Bills, keep doing it. And good news, the Bills are underdogs in Kansas City. Not that we do expect them to be favored, but you want them to be the underdogs. They were the underdogs last night, for crying out loud. A team that went 9-0 at home. A team with a better record. A team that won their division. A team that didn't lose to the crappy Raiders.
Well, for everything that we talked about last week, I think the one point, and it was the obvious point, we brought it up throughout the course of the week, really was the difference in the game. It was the addition of Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, and Taron Johnson. Those 3 guys missing the first time these 2 teams met was everything. And you could look at specific plays from last night's game made by Milano, made by Bernard, and be like, yeah, that's the difference of the game. Milano was possessed. An absolute witch out there. You know, a lot of people saying he had everything to do with that first turnover with the Lamar interception, and some people might push back on that, but like, no, I think he forced the issue on that one. He was unbelievable spying on Lamar all night, and you know that first 2-point conversion attempt is the Bills were fooled.
Yeah, well, danger before we get to the Mark Andrews drop. You don't need the Mark Andrews drop if Matt Milano doesn't make that play.
Correct.
That is the overlooked play of the game.
The
right
play was both of those plays were the right calls. Todd Monken made the right calls. I know a lot of Ravens fans say, you have Derrick Henry, just run the ball, just run the ball. It's like, no. That first 2-point conversion, you had 2 Bills running in the same direction, following the same guy. You had confusion. You had the Bills defense confused. It was a Matt Milano play in tipping that pass that led to that failed attempt. And yes, unfortunately, there's not much to say about the second one other than Andrews dropped the ball. But both instances, the right play was called. The defense was fooled. Milano made a play on the first 2-point conversion that made it essential to go for it on 2 the second time they scored. Just the job he did, kind of forcing the issue on Lamar and keeping tabs on Lamar, I thought was fantastic. And the Peanut Tillman fan in me, a tear, just a single tear, when Terrell Bernard perfectly executed the peanut punch. That was I was ready to call ball game then, but we've seen enough of these games to know there's still a lot of time left. But that was a momentum killer for sure.
That was a jaw-dropping play. That was like, whoa, you just did that.
You're waiting for the guillotine, the blade to fall because you're waiting for it. You just know, like, okay, here's the second half. The Ravens have made the adjustments, and the Bills have yet to adjust to the adjustments. But that turnover really kind of saved the day.
Without Zay Flowers, they had receivers open. They were doing a lot of things. They put up 421 yards on Buffalo and lost.
Every team that lost this weekend outgained the winning opponent. Isn't that crazy?
Well, don't turn the ball over. That's honestly that's sure. Detroit got a lot of yardage in garbage time. Houston did some nice things, but they didn't cash in. And then I didn't get to watch because you
were at the stadium.
For Philly and the Rams.
Yeah, the Philly and the Rams game. The weather really became a factor more so in the second half. But Saquon is remarkable. Saquon is sick. He's just sick.
Yeah, like any of these teams, if the Bills are fortunate, and yes, we could talk about this because we don't play for the team, we're not jinxing anything. It's not going to be easy. No, all these teams are good.
No, when the postseason began, you looked at the path, and you know, well, if they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to beat top 10 defenses. If they're going to win the Super Bowl, they're going to have to beat top 10 defenses. And we haven't even really seen, up to this point, Josh put on the superhero cape. If Andrews makes that reception and the game is tied with what it was, a minute 33 left, then maybe you have to see Josh Allen put on the Superman cape. But the way the offense was moving in the second half, it was discouraging. It really felt like the Ravens defense had the Bills number. Josh wasn't throwing downfield. You didn't have everybody involved. I mean, I think Cooper had 1 target on the game. Coleman had maybe one target on the game. Anybody outside of Shakir really wasn't a factor in the passing game.
It's tough to throw the ball in those conditions. It's cold. You saw Lamar make a just terrible mistake putting it up that way. So, Danger, here's my take on it. Even if Andrews comes down on that, I wasn't worried.
No.
I'm thinking this is setting up for another Josh Allen signature moment.
That's right.
Because let's not overlook the job that Tyler Bass did last night. 51-yarder. He misses that. That gives the Ravens good. The swing on that, I'm like, ooh.
I mean,
okay.
was I the only person watching that didn't think there was a prayer that he was making that? I'm like 51 yards in that weather, kicking a cinder block, not happening. But he proved me wrong. Proved a lot of people wrong.
Before we get to Mike Kettle on a few people holding here, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Chris in Kentucky, what's up, buddy?
Oh, it is a beautiful, beautiful Victory Monday, gentlemen. And it is cold here, but I really don't care. So, first I have a question for Danger. How did you like that bourbon bottle that I got you that was from Kentucky? But the point that I really wanted to make was there was a moment in the third quarter that really surprised me, and it wasn't from the Bills. It was from Harbaugh when he decided to go for that two-point conversion and tie the game up then. I was thinking he is coaching scared because, you kick the extra point and it's only a 1-point deficit with plenty of time still there on the clock. So anything can happen. But at that moment, I thought the game really turned because he was coaching scared. And I thought from that moment on, the Bills had this, even if they don't do a whole lot after, and they didn't. But Harbaugh is coaching scared. And I think a lot of it had to do with it wasn't the Bills so much containing Henry. They made him ineffective. He only had, 21 yards at halftime, and he got a few more yards in the second half. But really, they did a great job of taking Henry out of the game plan. And as you mentioned, Milano acting as the spy on Lamar, I thought that was a really brilliant job. Justice Hill got a few yards, sure. But I thought it was really the effectiveness of the Bills' running game. And Cook and Davis and Johnson, they were all very effective on the ground. And I think really that had the Ravens rattled.
Yeah, Chris, and just to your point on Derrick Henry, look, the first half, fantastic. Second half, not so much. Second half, Derrick Henry put the fear of God in you again if you were watching that game closely. He's averaging over 8.3 yards a carry in the second half, 8 times 67 yards, which is a lot of Ravens fans wondering, if you're going to go for 2, why don't you just put it in Henry's hand? If you're going to if throwing the ball is an issue, if the ball is slick or you can't throw it downfield, then why aren't you running more read option? You ran just 4 read option plays against the Bills yesterday, and not once did Lamar keep the ball. Not once. So you want to talk about coaching scared. The moment where I thought was going to be problematic, 4th and 2. It was the right call. 4th and 2, end of the game, and Tyler Bass's final field goal. To me, to put the Bills up 8, I'm like, all right, well, you're playing for overtime because I feel like you're not going to stop them. They're going to score, and this game could end in a tie if they choose to run the clock down to the very end.
It's a different conversation, though, if you go up by 7 as opposed to 8. Like the 2-point conversion, like that tilted it away. Chris, appreciate the call. One thing I will say, though, the Ravens rush for 176 yards as a team. Like, normally you don't win games like that. And between Hill and Henry, that was 134. Tim in San Diego, welcome. What's up, Tim?
First of all, is there enough cheese with all that wine I'm hearing about for the heating issues that you're having in the studio? My God,
says a guy from San Diego. Get out of
here.
Mean, you're lucky we take your call,
now.
pal. We're going to hang up on you now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Tyler Bass because I thought, reading what I've read today, nobody's talking about that. I mean, that's a huge points that he got for a guy who's been heavily criticized, most of the season for not being clutch. But that was very clutch. I'm very happy for him because if he doesn't make that field goal and other things happen, guess who's getting crucified, today? That would be Tyler Bass. And then obviously the very conservative play calling, that was happening in the second half. But overall, hey, like you said, move on to the Chiefs. But If they do that conservative play calling again, say if they're up at halftime and they go conservative mode in the second half against the Chiefs, I'm going to go nuts because you got to step on the gas, especially against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And if they, please to God, I hope they don't do that. So anyway, those are my 2 cents.
Tim,
I think weather was probably a part of that too, though. I mean, you're right, Gino. It's not easy to hold on to the football. It's not easy to throw the football, catch the football. We saw an early drop by Derrick Henry in that game that could have been a big factor. And I think weather does play a part. I don't know what the forecast is saying for Sunday in Kansas City.
It's 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is not going to be.
So it's not a weather game.
I'm going to tell you something that could be a factor. Sal Capaccio is reporting that the referee for this game is going to be Clete Blakeman. Clete Blakeman, his crew, averages the most penalties.
He's the worst.
He's the
worst.
No. You're supposed to have the best official.
I've hated this official as long as he's been in the league. I mean, it's a hatred that stems back at least 15 years. Longer.
Okay. Hockley. Worse than Blakeman.
No, Blakeman's worse.
Jeff Triplett.
No, for me, Blakeman's the worst. You will not
Jerome Bogar.
Blakeman is the worst. The worst. For me. My personal opinion, nobody worse than Clete Blakeman officiating games in the NFL. My personal opinion. Everybody's going to have their guy. That's the guy. When I hear his name, immediate anger. So that sucks. I hate that for us. However, you know my stance on officiating. The last night, it didn't really come into play, right? You had one really bad call on the Bills. You could argue there was a really bad call on the Ravens. There were a couple of calls that didn't have. I don't want to hear the Chiefs have the officials in their back pocket. The Chiefs, like any other team, are going to make penalties and they're going to get calls, and they're not going to officiating across the board isn't great in the NFL. They do hold them to a standard. They do hold them accountable. Make plays. Don't let it ever come to the officials. That's always been my stance. I don't want to hear about officiating or blown calls. Oh, and God, if we're here this time next week and that's the conversation, I might call in sick, Gene, because I can't take it. I cannot take, the refs, they love me. Every meme I see of an official wearing a Chiefs logo. I saw one that was disturbing where it was Patrick Mahomes making out with an official. I'm like, it's too much. AI is not being used for the right things.
No,
this
stop
is too
with
much.
that.
So, Clete Blakeman is not great.
Someday maybe when the Bills start winning Super Bowls, we'll have AIM, Josh Allen doing things with officials.
We already have. I mean, the majority of the country wants Buffalo to win this game. We have everybody on our side. If they go, this is a better opportunity than it was 4 years ago. This is it, man. This is Josh Allen playing the best football of his career. This is Sean McDermott doing the best coaching job of his career. This is when you go into Kansas City and you beat the Chiefs. And by the way, this stat crossed my feed, and I'll bring it up multiple times throughout the course of this week. There have been 58 Super Bowls. 4 teams have made it to the conference championship trying to three-peat. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
1976, the Steelers lost to the Raiders. 1990, the Niners lost to the Giants. 1994, the Dallas Cowboys lost to the 49ers. 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs. ...
Can we make the kickoff like at 6 o'clock tonight?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get to Mike Kettle on a 13 Web Sports Buffalo Plus. He's going to join us next, and we will recap yesterday's win in Orchard Park over the Ravens. Look ahead to Kansas City as well with the Icon on the Fan.
You're listening.
It's the Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs open as a 1.5 favorite. Head coach Sean McDermott on the Chiefs.
Looking forward to it. Great challenge. Again, another great team. Certainly well coached. Coach Reed does a phenomenal job. He and his staff. Tough challenge.
The Hall of Famer 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus's Mike Catalana joining us next here in the Sports Bar. On this Martin Luther King holiday, the Sabres in Seattle this afternoon. That's a 4 o'clock Eastern puck drop. The coverage today on 96.5 WCMF. On the NBA scoreboard, you have the Knicks trailing Atlanta. That's early on, 18-12. Minnesota over Memphis, 47-36 in the second. Detroit leading Houston, 73-64. National championship game tonight, Notre Dame and Ohio State. Gene Battaglia, the Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
A great team. They found ways to win all year. They've won a ton of games. Electric offense. We know who's on the other side over there. So we'll have to get back to work and really dial in and make sure we're all on the same page and getting ready to go and play them. It's going to be a hostile environment, but I'm so glad that we get another week just around the guys.
Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard, massive punch out against Mark Andrews. Second half of yesterday's win over the Ravens. Talking about Sunday's opponent, the Kansas City Chiefs. We welcome in 13 Wham Sports Buffalo Plus. Mike Catalana, the Hall of Famer, stopping by the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Man, for a second there, Mike, in the second half, it was a little dicey, I think, if you're a Bills fan watching and knowing that the Ravens made some adjustments at halftime and the Bills were kind of struggling to adjust to those adjustments, but the turnovers kind of won the day, did they not?
Yeah, I think they did. I think that was really what the Bills needed to do. Look, Baltimore, we've talked about this, and I think it's pretty obvious. Baltimore is not a great physical matchup for the Bills, right? They say, fight makes the fighter sometimes, and in terms of like who you're going against. They had to survive that game. And I give the Bills credit. I think they outcoached them the entire night. I do think there was that stretch for Baltimore where they got a little more physical and they ran it down the field. They made plays, but the Bills made some adjustments on defense. Lamar got thrown off a couple of times. Guys made individual plays. You talk about the play that Bernard made. I was comparing it to the play Taron Johnson made against Lamar back in 2020. Now, that was more spectacular. He took it to the house and the interception. But that play by Bernard, honestly, I'm not big on hyperbole. To me, that was one of the great playoff defensive plays. It was top 10 for the Bills in their history because of the importance of this game. I mean, that team was going down the field to take the lead, and he makes that play, and it changed everything. So he's a hell of a player and a leader for that team, and I don't know, they got it done one way or the other.
Mike, it's funny. I don't know if you felt the same way, but okay, the Ravens get it. They're going for 2.
Yep.
I still thought with 1:33 and 2 timeouts remaining, to me it was really no different last year. That hey, if Bass makes the field goal, well, you're leaving all this time for Patrick Mahomes up on the clock. That's where I am with this Bills offense, where it wasn't perfect last night, but I still thought they had it, even if Andrews holds on there.
Yeah, absolutely, and that sort of played into everything with the time. I mean, it is so tough in those moments. And, in the post game, I asked McDermott about his thinking to go for the field goal.
Yeah.
And I thought his answer was right on the money and pretty easy for anybody to figure out. If it's 1 yard, we're going. If it's 2, I got a decision. If it's 3, it's too far and we're going to kick it. And I kind of agree with him. I love being aggressive. But that's the borderline where you're like, we go up 8, we force them to make 2 plays. And then, like you said, even if they make those, in all likelihood, if they've driven down to score, there's going to be time on the clock. And that's what it was. So, yes, it would have been bad if they got the 2, but they did have time to win it in regulation. And Bass had made a long field goal. So, you would have had a chance there. So, it's those things don't normally work out for the Bills, do they? That's normally a Bill who makes that play that Andrews did. But it did.
Yeah, I mean, you think about that, and you've covered this team a long time, Mike. I mean, you know that And we talk about this. I mean, sometimes it is. I'm not saying that their win yesterday was lucky, but when you look at the history of this team, whether you're talking about Wide Right or 13 Seconds or the Music City Miracle, whatever it is, like, you're right. Those are normally the plays that happen to the Buffalo Bills, and somehow this year it happened, against the Bills. The Bills are on the opposite side of this kind of like lucky, fluky play that normally wouldn't happen.
You know what I think of, as much as like anybody watching the Chiefs, win the other night, and obviously we can talk about the bad calls and all that stuff. But the one thing the Chiefs do is when they get a break, they always take advantage of it.
That's right.
They just do. Like, it's kind of annoying, but it is the truth. They get a bad call, but don't they take it to the house and get a touchdown? Like, they just do. That's what a good team does. They get breaks and they take advantage. In that case, well, the Bills did, and then they closed it out. But I looked at it and said, they made that play. They went down the field. They put the Ravens in a spot where they had to make a play. They only made one out of the two. Well, Andrews obviously should have caught the ball, but they didn't make it. But then again, there was still time to win the game. And that to me was they earned the break is the best way I would say. They got a break, absolutely, but they earned it by their play, doing enough to keep the Ravens at bay and taking the ball away from Lamar and taking the ball away from the Ravens. I mean, you're talking about taking it away from, Andrews and Lamar. I mean, they're their guys, obviously, along with Derrick Henry. But, they earned the break that they got.
13 Wham and Buffalo Post's Mike Catalana joining us. Mike, what are your thoughts about the Bills kind of using things that are said about keeping receipts? The fact that Josh Allen brings that up to Tracy Wolfson last night, the fact that Sean McDermott actually answers the question about what that idiot Baltimore radio host. Right. I mean, Mike, if it works, keep doing it, I say.
I'm confused, Gene, by this whole thing, because I was told by the players that they don't listen to the – it's so funny. Yeah. Sean says a little bit. Josh will literally say, we don't listen to the outside noise, and then explain the outside noise that they heard. I think it's cool. Of course they're going to hear it and see it. Like, they hear everything. You got that – you got Keyshawn Johnson saying it's the easiest play to – all you got to do is tackle Josh Allen. I mean, come on, Keyshawn, you're not an idiot. That was a stupid take. If it was that easy, just say, well, it's an easy to play against Lamar and Henry. Just tackle them. I mean, dumb. Like, they hear all that stuff. Social media puts everything out there. The clown in Baltimore, like, hey, come on, you see the guy, like, whatever. But they use it. They're all of a sudden they're all Michael Jordan. They're all using this stuff. Mm-hmm. Listen, use whatever it takes. I guarantee you, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, they'll say nobody thought we could do it, as they win for a third straight time. But it's funny to me that they literally say we don't listen, and then they tell you what they heard. But hey, have fun, fellas.
And you were there. I think it was last week. It was you that put out there. You were talking to Rasul Douglas after the game, and he's like, "What were you guys saying about us not being able to get off the field on third down?" And by the way, they didn't get off the field against the Ravens on third down.
No.
So we made me want to bring that back up to him if you have a chance this week, Mike. If you see him, just say, "Hey, the third down was a little rough."
Isn't it funny?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was saying, like, you. Well, I mean, I think it was the collective you. I was like, well, he wasn't saying it to me, but that's fine. I wanted to say, we've been saying it plenty because you guys have been giving up like 45% on third downs, and it can kill you. They just survived it yesterday. I mean, right? Even right away in the first series. Lamar runs for the first. And it's tough to stop Lamar, but it's 3rd and 8. You got to get a stop. They don't. 5 plays later, it's a touchdown, and you're down 7-0. But give them credit, man. I say, and I said it, I'm saying it on the air tonight, that saying is, you don't have to be the toughest team. You just got to be tougher longer. And the Bills were tougher longer yesterday.
13 Wham and Buffalo Plus' Mike Catalana joining us. Mike, if you're a Boston Red Sox fan, the year you finally busted through, the fact you did it against the Yankees was kind of sweet. No, this isn't New England, but this is the team that has tormented the Buffalo Bills. This is the team that you lost to in the AFC Championship game in the 2020 season. So your thoughts that, hey, if to quote the wrestler, if you want to be the man, you actually have to beat the man coming up Sunday.
Listen, if you're the Bills, you would have taken a nice 10-point win over the Houston Texans in Orchard Park and gone to your Super Bowl. You take it. I told everybody, when the Bills first made the Super Bowl, they beat Jay Schrader, who was with the Raiders, right? That was the quarterback.
Ooh.
Now, then they went for style points the rest of the time when they beat Marino and Elway in Montana. But I get the point here. Listen, if it's going to take us getting there by beating the Chiefs, and the Bills are going to say that's the way it should be, I think they would have taken it anyway. It will be sweeter, obviously, if you get it done. But keep in mind, there's the other side of that, which is they deny you again, and it's 4 in a row in the playoffs, and they go to another, and they three-peat. Because the Bills had a chance to take them out last year and didn't do it. And now they get another chance to take them out there. But as we've seen all year, it's a different Bills team.
Yeah.
This will be their 4th game of the year. They had a game of the year against the Lions, or the Chiefs, the Lions, and now the Ravens. They're 3-0 in those games. That's kind of the way I look at it. And now it's another game of the year against the Chiefs.
Hey, Mike, one thing I know we're going to be paying attention to through the course of this week is the status of Taylor Rapp and that injury and the emergence of Cole Bishop. So I wanted to get your take on not just Bishop, but also the secondary, and Damar Hamlin, who led the team with 8 tackles yesterday's game and was a big part of that fumble, the Lamar fumble that Von Miller almost took to the house. So your thoughts on the safeties here for the Buffalo Bills as they get ready for Kansas City? Yeah,
I know Cole Bishop he's not only gotten a lot of time on the field, he's gotten a lot of instruction. We've seen, Micah Hyde is there in that, we know what the role is. It's sort of like a coach role, constantly working with those guys. I think that's why he was brought in. And Bishop's got talent, physical talent. The question is, he's just got to be in the right spot. Especially this week. Like, if he's going to be playing, he's got to be in the right spot. And, I don't understand the people who dislike Damar playing. I see a lot of it, and I know what he is. You guys know what he is. He is, first of all, he's tough as nails, throws himself in there. He's given up 50 pounds like everybody else to Henry. And is he a star? No. But I had somebody reach out to me this week and say, great play by Damar. This is probably his last year in the league. I'm like, what are you talking about? He has started for this team all year. He is not a star, but he gives them a lot, and he's in the right spot. Now, most of the time. Now, yesterday, I thought on that one deep ball, he's got to get a little deeper there. If he does, he probably gets a pick, but it goes over his head for a catch to the 1 yard line. But listen, I think they get effort, they get toughness, and I think Bishop is going to be a starter next year, or a good chance to be a starter next year. They're going to need him to step up. I don't know what we're going to hear when McDermott talks in a little bit. My guess is he gives the same injury answer, like we'll see where he is, unless it's one of those week-to-week things. But I give them credit. They hang in there even when they're sometimes physically overmatched.
So just so we're clear here, Mike, because you have two safeties on the let's say, okay, he's not available. You could elevate one of them. It's not going to be Micah Hyde, correct? It would be Kareem Jackson?
Yes. I don't think, honestly, I'm still trying to find out. Just honestly, I don't think at a point it matters. But there was plenty of opportunity to elevate Micah Hyde if they wanted to. And Sean shuts it down right away. There's no injury. There's nothing. I don't know. There's, like I said, they're not saying anything to us, but it's almost like I don't sit there. You guys sit there and wait for elevations and think, oh, today it's going to be Micah Hyde. Like, they didn't even do the cursory, give them the elevation in the playoffs, because you can do that because it's unlimited in the playoffs. Like, they did 2 other guys, and that's just what they did. So, I guess you would have to have 3 more injuries to get him on the field. I just don't think I don't think there's any plan. I'm saying all this, watch, they'll activate him this week. But I don't think there's any plan for him to play in this game or the Super Bowl if they make it.
Mike, any concern about, or was it just simply the weather? The offense looked pretty conservative throughout the course of yesterday, and I know you don't want to turn the ball over, but, man, Josh wasn't really throwing the ball downfield, and you're clearly going to have to score points against Kansas City come this weekend. Was there any concern as to how that game was called by Joe Brady and executed by Josh Allen heading into Kansas City?
I don't think it's concern. I think I'm not saying this is who they are. There's a whole nother conversation to have about what they do next year. And the everybody eats thing is great, but man, I still think, and I think you guys probably, I still think they need a wide receiver. Amari Cooper has not been, he has been a disappointment. Somebody was saying he doesn't get a lot of targets. A lot of times if you got that guy, he forces the targets, right? He's open. You're going to throw him the ball. It is funny. The two games yesterday, the Eagles stressed me out because that's what that game was. But if you look at the two games, the Rams threw for more yards, made more plays, but also turned it over left and right, including Stafford. Should have had a couple more picks. They dropped them, but he did. And they fumbled the ball. They did all that, and the Eagles end up winning. Not really throwing for a ton of yards, not turning it over. And then I watched the Bills. Obviously Lamar threw for more yards. There was more plays by the wide receivers, but they turned it over. And, it's the old Belichick line. You play to let the other team figure out a way to lose. That's kind of the thinking has always been. It's like they'll make mistakes. Let them make their mistakes. And it's funny to see the Bills kind of comfortable in that role. They've done it before, where Josh can make those plays, but they didn't really ask him to. I'd like to see it open up a little more just because I think they may need that gear. But they're in the AFC Championship game. They scored enough to win. The style points thing goes out the window. But I do think it would be nice to know if you needed it, you could turn that on. We have seen it, right? We saw it in Detroit. We saw it against the Rams. We have seen them just light it up in the air. And they play the Super Bowl if they make it in the Dome. So we'll see. But, yesterday was come on, Joe. I like the run game, but, you got to throw it. But he was pretty content to just keep it running.
Last Bills question for me, Mike, and it's just a small point, but I was very excited because I've been campaigning, put Khalil Shakir on punt returns. Yes, we're going to. Yeah. And then you win a game, but you didn't force a single punt last night. Yeah.
It's funny. We were talking about punts, and, sometimes you think of punts as almost just long turnovers, right? Yeah. You get Lamar off the field. But honestly, they replaced the punts with the turnovers yesterday. I was thinking, get more punts, and you will at least get Josh Allen on the field and take the ball away. And instead, they got, the fumbles, the pick. They made those plays. So, yes, ideally you would want the punts, but when you'll take no punts and 3 turnovers every day of the week. And that's what they did. This team has thrived and survived with turnovers. And it's, but now you got the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not a big, this year Mahomes has not thrown the amount of interceptions he did last year. They don't really turn it over a lot. And how good they are on third downs and all that stuff. So you're going to need to try to get them to punt the ball. We can get to see your buddy Ariza, kick the ball a little bit. But, it worked yesterday. I don't know if you can count on Mahomes and the Chiefs turning the ball over that much.
Mike, what are your thoughts on the NFC title game?
The Eagles' passing game has been poor. They just haven't gotten anything going. But their run game is so dominant and their defense is by far, I would say, even though the Chiefs have always been good, I think the Eagles have a better defense this year than the Chiefs. And that they're just playing that game. And sort of like what the Bills did yesterday. It's okay, it worked, so they kept doing it. A.J. Brown put the book down and dropped one. Should have been a touchdown. It would have made the numbers look better. Probably would have put the game away. But I tell you what, Jaden Daniels is, he's the real deal. Yeah. I don't like the hyperbole from some people. I think he's been great. I see hyperbole right away that it's this guy is going to be a superstar for 10 years. Let's let him play. He's been awesome. And I can't believe you wouldn't think that he's got a chance to do that. But you never know what happens in this league. But I love his instincts. I love his calm. He is not going to be intimidated. He's played in Philly. He didn't have a great game then, but he was banged up when he played in that game. So I think that had a lot to do with it. The second game, there were some guys out, but he played tremendously against them. I think they're going to have their hands full the whole way. they just have the hammer all the time of being able to run it and give it to Saquon and just watch him, take it to the house multiple times. So I think it's a close game. I think it's another one of those back and forth. They will be playing for a third time, and it would not stun me at all to see Washington go in there and win because of the quarterback. Because I think he's so young and good that he doesn't know he's supposed to be nervous because he's got a very slow heart rate when he's on the field. He's just been incredible.
Well, let me be the first to say it's going to be one of these, the more you know things, you'll hear it. We've never had a rookie quarterback start in the Super Bowl, Mike, so that would be a first there.
Yeah, right, yes. What was Roethlisberger was in his second year. Marino was in his – all those guys were in, like, their second year to go in there. And, look, he's not just been – he's been a star in the league, really, really good. Not just like say some of the other younger guys, even like Roethlisberger that year was, more game manager early on. This kid is not that way. So, hey, listen, I've been waiting 40 years for a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl, all those years. It would be awesome. It would be awesome if they got to play each other in the Super Bowl. And, the Bills have already, they've chalked up losses to 3 other teams in the division. It would be fitting that they finally play the Eagles after all these years, but they both got a lot of work to do on Sunday.
Mike, finally, have you read Inner Excellence?
I'm trying to get a copy of it, but it's sold out. I'm going to get AJ's copy because he's already marked it up a little bit.
Right, the highlighter, everything.
You know what is funny, though? I saw people I've never seen, but you see the shot of him on the sidelines, and none of his teammates are looking at him. You know what I mean? I would think if he'd never done it, people would be like, what are you doing? So I've never, I don't know how often they would show it, but
he claims he does it all the time.
Well, no, he says it, and then people are like, oh, I've never seen it. But, his teammates are sitting there. Nobody's reacting. Nobody is going up to him going, dude, what are you doing? Why are you reading a book?
He's that guy. He's the guy that you don't ask questions. You're just like, I'm just going to let him be. I'm just going to let him do what he wants to do. He's that guy. What's coming up this week on Buffalo Plus that we can check out leading up to Sunday, Mike?
Yeah, we are loaded up. We're busy. So we've got our U.S. We Answer segment tomorrow. We've got an interview with Chiefs reporters coming up on Wednesday. We'll be up at practice Wednesday. We've got our podcast Thursday night. We're all heading out to Kansas City this weekend. I got to tell you, though, I would add one other thing. I've been to Kansas City so many times. I am barbecued out.
Wow.
I like barbecue. I can go get great barbecue at Dinosaur or one of the places here.
Yeah.
And I've been all the places. I got to tell you, this is going to be a very Paisan thing to say, but we found an Italian place there 2 years ago. It's fantastic. I think we're going Italian Saturday night in Kansas City. How about that?
What does that do for the juju leading into the game? Does it break any tradition? Is there any superstition?
No superstition, but I will tell you this. When we went out there, had Italian before the game, the night before, Bills won.
That's it.
So, take that to the bank this time. Our dinner impacts how the Bills play on Sunday.
Mike, it's great having you on with us, man, and safe travels. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, guys.
You got it.
Thanks,
There's
Mike.
13 Wham Sports Director, Hall of Famer, Buffalo Plus, Mike Catalana stopping by the sports bar.
That would be, imagine a Bills-Bears Super Bowl. No, I can't. That is so far-fetched.
Well,
but that's what Mike would be up against, right?
Since you brought it up.
Ow.
Oh, no.
Ow.
I haven't seen this. What?
It
What?
really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
The Chicago Bears have hired Ben Johnson as their new head coach.
You're kidding.
We're not a Bears show, so I didn't want to bring it up in the middle of our conversation.
No, you should have brought that up.
But that's a bit of breaking news here in the sports bar.
I was just going to put Ben Johnson on blast the next segment. Can I still do that, or is that going to make you feel bad?
Nothing you can say is going to make me feel bad right now. I don't even know that this is real life.
You thought, peek behind the curtain, oh, they're gonna hire McCarthy,
That's
and
exactly.
I'll be fine with it because, well, at least you'll win like 9 games, and you'll be.
My point on McCarthy was, one, I would not be excited about the hire, but when you look at his overall resume, you look at it and you're like, okay, his floor is 500. Like, that's an improvement from where they've been. Their GM has lost like 32 games since he's been the GM. They're not a good team. They're not a good organization. So I would take that floor. I would swallow that bitter pill if they hired that guy. They didn't. They hired the guy that everybody wanted. So you can say whatever you want. This isn't real life. I don't know what's going on.
So maybe that kind of adds up because Dan Campbell did his season-ending press conference. He's talking about replacing coordinators. I'm like, whoa, do you know something that we don't? Well, apparently he did know.
And Aaron Glenn's taking second interviews with the Jets, and I want to say with the Saints as well. I mean,
the one from one report I read today said that that if he doesn't leave the Jets without a contract, that's okay. So maybe that'll happen. And look, he's a former Jet. They could do worse than that.
We're going to take a break and come back with more next, including a conversation with Nate Geary from the Buffalo Bills Radio Network. You hear him on the pre- and post-game shows here on the Fan Rochester. We have time for your calls as well at 866-4326. You can join us at 585-866-4FAN.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It's back to Kansas City. The Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs AFC Championship game. Kansas City opening as a 1.5 favorite. Head coach Sean McDermott just now saying that Taylor Rapp listed as day-to-day. He left the field on a cart with a hip injury. Terrell Bernard talking about the importance of getting takeaways.
Stop the run and then take the ball away. We know who we have on the other side. We get the ball to 17. We feel like we got a great shot to win. And, that's what it comes down to, man. Our fundamentals and, our execution, but then the ball. And that's the key point that I feel like it's been all year for us. When we're successful taking the ball away, we have a good chance to win.
Nate Geary, WGR, and the Bills Radio Network joining us later this hour. Chicago Bears have hired Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their next head coach. Sabres in Seattle, that's just starting if you want that. That's on 96.5 WCMF. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Here's the snap. Jackson rolling right, looking to toss it, and dropping the football. Incomplete is Mark Andrews. Wow. Celebrate, Bills Mafia. The Bills have won 27-25. Kansas City, here we come.
Mike Danger.
Not now when. Your team is playing really, really well. Kansas City is doing likewise, but you're healthy. You have a lot of talent. Like, if you're going to do it, this is the year to do it. This is the year to get past Kansas City.
Gene Battaglia.
This team's pretty good. We don't have to whisper this. We don't have to apologize. They may win the whole bleeping thing here.
Why not?
They're one win away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They are one win away from the Super Bowl.
When the Bills win by a billion.
It's a city of winners. It really is. It's a city of winners. These people in this town are winners.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
So much to get to this afternoon in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We welcome you on, and thank you for listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app or watching along on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester on YouTube and on Twitch. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia. Nate Geary from the Buffalo Bills Radio Network stops by in about 20 minutes or so.
Our phone number, 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Bills fans, what do you think? We go to our friend Adam in Irondequoit. Adam, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. A little hoarse this morning, but good. First of all, I haven't spoken to you guys in a while. Hope you all had a good New Year, good holiday. Wanted to get that out of the way before I vent like a World War I battleship. First of all, we acknowledge Fitzpatrick. That was
greatness.
That was epic.
Right.
That was, regardless of how the game went, I don't care that he went to Harvard. Okay, I'm rocking an associate's degree in liberal arts from MCC. He's a brother from another mother. Okay, he is a gold card carrying member of Bills Mafia because he gets us. That is, I was watching. I'm like, yes, you get it. Other people, they don't understand. They're other fan bases. Kendrick Lamar, they're not like us. They don't get it. Okay. So full disclosure, last night going into the game, I'm looking at it with, cautious optimism. I'm acknowledging some things that you hinted on earlier, like, hey, first time these guys played, the Buffalo Bills were a completely different team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? So as it went on, it was fun. It was entertaining. It was great to see two teams. I honest to God, I got no hate. It's not like Tom, and the evil empire from up north. It's a great team, great players, great people down in Baltimore. And so it's nice. It's sad somebody had to lose that game. However, this morning, I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. Every freaking show, every podcast, everything. Oh, they beat themselves. Oh, the worst. Oh, they were the better team. Oh, Lamar Jackson was the best player on the field. Blah, 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 blah. I guess they didn't notice Bills had a defense that was on the field. All we heard about was the presumable MVP and the rest of the Ravens and how bad they played and how they just lost the game. We heard about, the failed 2-point conversion, Lamar's interception, Andrews fumble. Not Milano's tip or the Hamlin strip sack or Milano's pressure, which, by the way, was all night, or the Bernard strip, which any tight end in the game would have lost that ball. It doesn't matter. That was an epic play. They get no credit. No, it wasn't the defense. It was just Baltimore just beat themselves. They didn't happen to play against another team. So, you know what it is? Oh, it was luck. I guess the Bills' defense was luck. But you know what luck is? Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Okay? And, of course, it's a presumptive MVP, right? Because all the stats, Alone had a pedestrian outing. Look at what Lamar did. Look at all the yards. Look at all the last year. White State didn't matter. White State's not the reason we made the MVP. Because if we would, it would have been Dak. It could have at least been Allen. Oh, but it couldn't have been Allen. You know why? He had too many turnovers. Was that 3 or 4? I don't remember. But it was supposed to be the number that Lamar had last night or the Ravens had last night. This is absurd that we're even still having this conversation. Josh should be the MVP. But that's okay. You don't want to respect us? That's cool. That's cool. It's all right. Just like I said, they're not like us. I'm a Bills fan. I have been. I loved them when they had Kelly. I loved them when they had Flutie. I loved them briefly when they had Johnson. Even Bledsoe. That's fine. Nothing. It doesn't. You don't want to respect us. You don't want to acknowledge the greatness that was that coaching last night. And I have been a critic of McDermott, especially in the big games. He made all the right calls. Finally, something went our way. I will enjoy just listening to people make excuses for the teams that the Bills railroad over on their way to the Super Bowl, hopefully. I'm not going to make any predictions. Kansas City's really good. But in the meantime, I'm just going to savor this and love my team more and more. Thanks. I'm out.
Well, hold on.
Thank you.
As is tradition, when Adam from Irondequoit dials in, he gets the dance floor. That's a call.
Let me try to explain how our business works so everybody understands. Because, okay, I heard it as well as you did. Listening to WFAN overnight, because if you went to the Bills game, you weren't getting home early, right? And the host, she's talking about how the Ravens lost this. It wasn't the Bills winning. Danger, what happens on the show when the Bills win comfortably? We play the Italian music. We have some fun. When the Bills lose, the engagement skyrockets. And that's how our business works. So what is the more interesting topic in terms of talk? How the Bills were well coached, how the Bills ran the ball, how the offensive line did its job. Those are all true. The interesting thing is how Baltimore made these mistakes along the way.
Right. It's sad, but talking about the game in the trenches and the play of the Bills' offensive line or defensive line, it's not going to get eyeballs. It's not going to get clicks. What will get clicks is Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson dropping F-bombs at the podium following the game.
Yes, that's the key. That's what people will talk about. That's what people will gravitate towards. You could view it as disrespect if you'd like, but I don't really view it that way. But we're also in this. Like, we kind of understand what goes on when somebody on a show doesn't say that the Bills won the game, the Ravens lost it. It's so funny, too. I wonder, like, Lamar was not good in that first half, right? We acknowledge that the interception and the fumble, really the difference in that game. And then you had the peanut punch in the second half, which kind of sealed it. But the turnovers were everything in that game. For a team that outgained the Bills the way the Ravens did, for a team that didn't punt the way the Ravens did not punt yesterday, it was those turnovers. And I'm wondering if it was reversed, like if Lamar had his first half in the second half instead of in the first half, because I almost feel like we forgot that Lamar struggled in the first half, that Lamar was jittery, that Lamar made mental and physical mistakes in the first half. If we would be saying more, if there would be more people kind of on Lamar today. Nobody's on Lamar today.
Oh, no. I disagree.
I'm asking. I'm wondering.
Oh, no. I think a lot of people on Lamar. Well, this goes back to our conversation last week. Like, this is going to be a 3-time MVP who's been to one championship game.
I've seen stuff, though, in my feed, and maybe you're not like me. Maybe you haven't. Maybe our algorithms might be different. Who knows? Yeah. But I see a lot of people like saying, hey, Lamar, you did everything you needed to do. You did everything you could do. This isn't on you. Like, trying to continue to prop him up. And I'm like, did everything he could do. 2 of those 3 turnovers are on him.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and I've seen people pushing back on that.
Okay.
Nick Wright being, like, right
I just don't understand that, like, we have to – it's almost as if you're in the media, you have that MVP vote, and now you're like, oh, well, you know what? I voted for Lamar, and this game shouldn't be an indictment on the season yet because he had a really good season and really historic season. That wasn't on him.
kind
of on him.
I'd also say this is why you win games in the regular season to have home field. That temperature last night, it affected Lamar. It affected Mark Andrews. If you're not used to it, good luck. Good luck. Because that ball comes out different. It is a rock trying to catch that thing.
Right. Don't lose games to the Raiders in the regular season. Don't lose games to the Browns in the regular season. And you have a better chance at that home field advantage. The regular season does matter, believe it or not.
That's why we love the NFL.
Mm-hmm. We're going to get to Nate Geary here in about 10 minutes or so, Gino. And I know you had something that you were going to say about.
Well, it was kind of a Commander's take, but I think everybody's kind of overlooking this. I didn't stay for the post game. Maybe there was commentary on this. I mean, can we just kind of revisit that Dan Quinn wasn't the first choice in Washington? He was the last guy hired in the cycle and was one of those, almost like McDermott, like, okay, yeah, I've heard of that guy. Sure, come on in, do the job. He beat the guy head-to-head that I think every Washington fan wanted, being Ben Johnson.
Uh-huh.
But Johnson at the time was like Goldilocks. This isn't right. Well, good luck. Now the story today, maybe being picky will pay off. Johnson ending up in Chicago. I'm happy that he ends up in Chicago, not someplace like Jacksonville, because Jaden Daniels, that's where I was ready to put him on blast. You had an opportunity to work with Jaden Daniels, and how could you not know who was coming out in this draft? But he's working with a guy that was taken ahead of him, so maybe this works out for him.
Well, as a Bears guy, what I'm enthusiastic about is I feel like you got the best guy that was out there, right? The guy that everybody I felt like wanted and everybody wanted to interview last year and this year is now your head coach. And the only concern I have with Ben Johnson is, because it's his first time as a head coach, is this too big a lift for a first-time head coach? Because it's a significant lift in Chicago. He's got to change a culture. There's talent on that roster. But he's got to change a culture. He's got to deal with mismanagement from above. Maybe a year from now we're talking about Ben Johnson needing a new GM in Chicago. Who knows how that all works out?
Yeah, and also on top of that, no, it wasn't great in this postseason, but that's a really, really tough division where you are facing three teams that went into the postseason. I think he'll do just fine. I'm just curious now about the dominoes after, because I really thought Ben Johnson, like you, was going to go to the Raiders. Okay, now who do the Raiders go after now? Who do the Jaguars go after?
I can't believe anything I read anymore online. There was somebody, again, AI is wicked. Somebody posted a picture of Ben Johnson sitting next to Tom Brady on a plane, flying to Vegas after the Lions lost and Brady was on the jet with Ben Johnson next to him. I'm like, oh my God, is this real? What am I looking at? What is real life anymore? I have no idea. And it all made sense to me when you think about the opportunity in the Raiders for Johnson, because if a guy who craved alignment as much as he claimed he did, you would have had that in Vegas. This is why I'm kind of surprised. I'm not complaining. I'm just surprised that the Bears got the guy that they wanted, and that the guy that they wanted actually agreed to come to the Bears.
Well, it's the best job because you have the best plan at quarterback. You have the best hope. You still have the kid on his rookie deal.
Yeah.
You have a lot of cap space. You have Ryan Poles. He's a Section 5 guy. I don't want to speak ill, but, hey, he's on notice here. You don't get to hire another head coach after this.
Whew.
Wouldn't think.
No. That's exciting. And now the hiring cycle can begin. And the early word is that Johnson might be bringing in Dennis Allen to be his defensive coordinator, which, if that's true, say what you will of Dennis Allen as his head coach with the Saints, but he's a guy who has head coaching experience and, by all accounts, has been a good defensive coordinator, as an NFL defensive coordinator can be. So we'll see how that all shakes out. We'll get more confirmation on that here.
We got Nate Geary, Buffalo Bills Radio Network. We'll talk some Bills. I don't want to do the radio thing, and I'm acknowledging I'm kind of doing this, but I was so excited. Hey, listen, next hour we're going to do this, but I was so excited for this piece of audio. Normally I don't reach out to Danger over the weekend unless it's really, really good.
Uh-huh.
That's coming up in shots.
Yeah, we have that coming up. Dare I say, early 2025 Take of the Year nominee.
I'm going to leave it to you, Danger. Is it Take of the Year worthy?
Okay.
I believe it is.
Yeah.
In a sport that really, really could use a little trash talk.
Uh-huh. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit. Fun weekend of football behind us. Another fun weekend of football ahead of us. Championship Sunday, and oh, by the way, we've got a college football national championship champion to crown tonight as well. We haven't talked about.
Look, now I know people that cheer for both sides. Nick, you're a big Notre Dame fan, right?
Yeah.
My dad loves Notre Dame. A lot of people love Notre Dame. So does the Dandalorian.
Yes.
Now the Dandalorian, he's our fine quasi-producer, the bounty hunter of audio. He likes the Vikings, the Mets, the Sens. It's kind of a weird concoction, right? And then you throw Notre Dame on top of it. He's so giddy about tonight. He said, and we're going to hold him to this, if Notre Dame wins, he will come out to our next event at Three Heads.
Whoa. Okay.
Which he has never come out to anything.
Normally, he's here behind the glass, as
right.
they say in our industry.
He does not, he's not. It's not rude. He's a good kid, but he just doesn't want to kind of deal with that sort of thing. He will come out to our next event.
Okay. Dandalorian signing autographs.
Selfies with Dandalorian.
Selfies with Dandalorian.
Adam Terry took some selfies. He was cool for that.
Oh, man.
He was cool. Like, I didn't see him autographed. I was like, hey, can I have a picture? Sure. Dandalorian. Would somebody take a picture with Dandalorian?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they would. Let's get Nate Gary on next. Not only will we talk Bills, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, but we'll get Nate's take on tonight's college football national championship with his Irish playing Ohio State. We'll get his thoughts on that matchup as well. We have time for your calls this afternoon as well here as we recap the Bills' divisional round win over the Ravens. 866-4FAN, our phone number 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger. Rochester Sports Update.
It's the Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs, of course, the favorite here by 1.5. Head coach Sean McDermott on the challenge.
Looking forward to it. Great challenge. Again, another great team. Certainly well coached. Coach Reed does a phenomenal job. He and his staff. Tough challenge.
Head coach Sean McDermott also mentioning that Taylor Rapp is day-to-day, and Terrell Bernard talk about the importance of the takeaways against Baltimore. Nate Geary, WGR and the Bills Radio Network, will join us next year in the Sports Bar. Breaking news is the Chicago Bears have hired Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their next head coach. Sabres in Seattle, that one is underway. If you're looking for that, it's over on 96.5 WCMF. Of course, the national championship game today in football, it's Notre Dame taking on Ohio State. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's what we've worked for, is an opportunity to play another week. We don't want our season to end on a loss, and this gives us an opportunity to keep going, but we'll enjoy this one. A lot to learn from this one. Obviously wasn't pretty, but these playoff games, man, you got to win by one. That's all that matters.
Nate Geary, speaking of 1 a.m., taking calls, just doing yeoman's work.
Yeah.
Post-game after the Bills dispatch of the Ravens in the divisional round. Look ahead to the championship game coming up Sunday evening at Arrowhead. Nate Geary, the voice of the Bills Radio Network, joining us here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Nate, and Josh saying it right there, it wasn't always pretty offensively. They got it done. Those turnovers were critical. They were everything. And I know that earlier today you were noticing what I think a lot of Bills fans were noticing, that the narrative around this win was less about what the Bills accomplished and more about what the Ravens didn't do.
I said this in the lead-up last week. I was on with Bulldog on WGR 550 filling in for Mike Shope, and said that I believed that regardless of which quarterback lost, that the first 24 to 48 hours post-game would be about the losing quarterback. I just didn't imagine it would be holding water the way that the media right now is, I guess sort of protecting or shielding Lamar Jackson. And listen, I think the idea of, trying to, convince everybody that the narrative that, Lamar it chokes in the playoffs. And I think there can be two mutually, very different schools of thought, is that he probably played his best playoff game in a big moment, and yet it was his worst game of the season. And I think that's largely the conversation about Lamar, is everyone now talking about, Jeremy White said this morning, and I was like, finally someone said what I was trying to articulate in my brain. The Mark Andrews drop is the Tyler Bass missed field goal last year. It is going to be the thing everybody talks about. But the fact of the matter is, the Bills had 1:33 with 2 timeouts and the ability to walk down the field and kick a game-winning field goal as time expired. And I'm very confident the Bills would have done that if that was the case. But this idea that is all Mark Andrews, and it was his fumble, and it was the drop at the 2-point conversion, I want to sort of just sit there and yell like, well, why was it that they only had 19 points with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were trying to go down the field, score a touchdown and an extra point just to tie the game? It was because of the turnovers in the first half. It was because they got behind 21-10 in this game. And yeah, listen, I knew that this conversation, this is not some sort of novel concept, that the conversation would be about the losing quarterback. I just thought it would be about the negatives. And I don't believe if the places were switched and it was Josh Allen, that there would be this protection and this shielding of Josh Allen like it is for Lamar Jackson. And then listen, it is what it is. And I'm fine if everybody wants to talk about the Ravens losing and it wasn't the Bills winning, because this just continues to fuel what I think is an important identity of this team, which is they are far more comfortable playing in this position, the underdog position. And how about the line opening as a -1.5 favorite for Kansas City? And last week, somehow the league feels that the Baltimore Ravens team was better than the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, as we all know, we're a part of the business. We're a part of the industry, guys. But it's a narratives industry, and it's a hot take farm on the internet. And I think that I am more comfortable with the Bills being an afterthought of this game than had they walked out of this game and everyone's saying, Josh Allen's walking into Arrowhead and unbeatable and, they're the best team in the AFC, screw the Chiefs. I'm absolutely comfortable with how this game is being talked about today with the position the Bills have in and where they've thrived.
Nate, it's funny. As you start addressing this point, pardon the interruption, puts over the slug there with Kornheiser and Wilbon. Is this more about the Ravens or the Bills? You know what? In 24 hours, who cares about Baltimore?
Who cares?
We're on to the next thing. I got to listen to as much as possible right up to 1 a.m., Nate, because it was a brutal drive back to Rochester. So thank you for keeping everybody company last night. You had multiple callers last night. Kind of preface. Great job by McDermott. I wasn't always a fan, but what did he figure out here? Because to me, that was as good a coaching job as any we've seen in Buffalo.
So this is not an original thought. This is I'm gonna kind of rehash what I think Colin Cowherd talked about on the show today, which is the Bills have this Ferrari at quarterback, and they are doing exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs did when they moved away from Tyreek Hill. And it was, we can win this way, and it's flashy, and we're going to score lots of points, and we're going to get into these track meets and beat you. And the Bills, we're going to throw 45 times a game, and we're not going to run the football, and Josh is going to throw, 10 interceptions, and we're all going to convince ourselves that, well, those interceptions, they're like punts, and who cares about the interceptions? It's the same, there's no such thing as a salary cap. Well, actually, there is. And it's like maybe those turnovers were doing more harm than we were all really willing to admit because we wanted and believed and saw how great Josh could be. And, the turnovers, they're turnovers, but hey, it's the same as punting, right? And I think the Bills decided, and this was the quote I loved from Cowherd was, all the bells and whistles and all the different desserts, guess what's still the best-selling ice cream out there? Vanilla. And the Bills had one penalty. They had no turnovers. And I look at that game plan and I say, they got one sack, one turnover, zero turnovers, one penalty, right? They played mistake-free football. They did what every team the last couple of seasons did preparing for the Bills and saying, you know what? Eventually the quarterback's going to beat himself. That team's going to self-destruct in the big moments. I don't think that there's a coincidence, guys, that the Bills finally had a ball break their way and Mark Andrews dropped that ball, right? And I don't think it's because of the weather. I don't, fate, whatever. What I believe is the Bills allowed the Baltimore Ravens to beat themselves. And you know what? To me, it doesn't take anything away from what the Bills did because the Bills won that game. But they won it in part by being responsible, being vanilla, staying with the run game. Josh Allen, isn't it a perfect encapsulation of his growth that on that third down play at the goal line in the fourth quarter, you saw in every man, guys, there are two wolves on each shoulder. The one that's telling him, pitch that ball, and you could see it in real time, guys. Yeah. He literally took the ball, and you could see it, and the responsible, the angel on his shoulder said, "No, Josh," and right there, it's the perfect encapsulation of his growth as a player, the maturity, and I think in large part, what this team represents and what it embodies is what the growth that I think the cornerstone pieces of this franchise have seen, which is growth in Sean McDermott, growth in Josh Allen. And those two are the most important pieces of this team. And I think for the first time, there's a calmness. There is we're going to control what we can control that we have not seen in years past. And I think it makes them a freaking dangerous team going to Arrowhead next week.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about how this team looks going into Arrowhead, because we learned today that Benford is in concussion protocol. We learned that Taylor Rapp is day-to-day with his hip injury, although we did see Cole Bishop kind of step up, and it didn't look like the moment was too big for him yesterday. We saw DeMar Hamlin in the secondary lead the Bills in tackles. What's your take on the Bills' secondary, the Bills' defense here, health-wise, heading into Arrowhead?
The day-to-day designation on Taylor Rapp is as big of a win as you could get coming out of that game, because getting carted off, you couldn't really – there really wasn't agreement on which play it was. How did he hurt his hip? Maybe he just jammed it. Maybe it's a labral tear. And to be listed as day-to-day, that's a huge win. And to your point, I don't think they feel they have to rush him back the way that Cole Bishop played, but let's not get it twisted. This is a Kansas City Chiefs offense that, I know they didn't score a ton of points last week and they got outgained by over 100 yards, and they're the first team to win an AFC divisional round game being outpaced by 100 or more yards in a game. I know, black magic, whatever. They will find your weakness defensively and they will exploit it. And Christian Benford's going to play. He's playing. Breaking news, Christian Benford's going to play next week. But I do think, if they could get Rapp back and he's good enough to be out there, I think it's a huge win. Listen, I think about this game, and there is not the level of contention that I think this matchup generated for fans, for this team, something to prove. I think that the Bills, I think Josh Allen, I think Sean McDermott are no longer afraid of failure. When you fail so many times, guys, when you hit your head on the same ceiling over and over, eventually you just kind of become numb to that failure. And I think that's why what gives me a little bit of confidence about this game, and why I think maybe it just is their time, is I think they needed to, as an organization, embrace the potential of failure. And that is where I think I've seen the biggest growth from Sean McDermott. Yesterday, to me, it felt they would have been afraid of that moment. And at no point did they blink, even as Lamar's taking them down the field. And I was blinking. Could barely watch the damn game because it felt like I knew what the script was. I knew what was going to happen. And I think even if they did too, deep down, that they weren't afraid of failing in that moment. And I think that's the biggest difference in this team, is the failure in previous years, I think has, and especially when you don't have a guy, and I hate making this always about Stephon Diggs, but I think a lot of people feared failing because of how he would react, how people in that locker room would have to react. The walking on eggshells, listen, I think that was a real thing. And I think in a moment like this, there's nobody in that locker room where you feel like, I'm scared to fail because this guy's going to freak out. And I don't think that exists anymore. So, yeah, listen, they'll be healthy. If they're not healthy, I think this is the best shot they've had against the Kansas City Chiefs, since McDermott and Allen have paired. And I'm just really excited to watch that game, win or lose. It feels really good to finally get back to the AFC Championship game.
Nate Geary, who is your host, Buffalo Bills Radio. You hear him in the pregame. You hear him taking your calls on the Overtime Show, and we'll be listening one more time coming up Sunday night. Nate get another game here. One kind of parallel between the Bills and the Chiefs is this. I'm watching the Chiefs game, and it's like, Mahomes, other than Xavier Worley, he's not targeting his wide receivers. He's not really. And then, okay, maybe it's really cold there. What did you make of the game plan by Joe Brady last night, and the fact that, all right, it was conservative. It worked. We're not complaining, but could we expect the Bills offense to be a little more open this week, particularly if the temperatures are going to be much warmer than they were last night?
I don't know. I think to answer this question, I have to say that one of the things that has made me confident about the Bills is the same thing that I think would give Chiefs fans a lot of confidence, is I think you've watched the Chiefs win just about every kind of game, right? Like, you want to play a shootout and you get the ball back with 13 seconds, fine, we can win that game. You want to slow it down and Mahomes is going to throw for 140 yards at a score, and we're not going to beat ourselves, and we're going to grind it out, and Pacheco and Hunt, they'll do it. And you want to play a defensive battle, you're going to win 19-13. All right, fine. We can win that way. I think that's been what's most impressive to me. You want to get into a shootout, score 48 points against the best team in the NFC? Fine, the Bills can do it, and they've proven they can win that game. You want to get into a defensive battle and maybe get a little conservative and really focus on running and stopping the run? Well, we can win that way, and we can win that way in the playoffs like they did against the Baltimore Ravens. And if you need Josh Allen to throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, he could do it. And if you need him to throw for 127 yards and run for 2 touchdowns, he can do it. I just think these two teams can win in a multitude of ways. And I think that was probably my biggest fear of having to face the Chiefs is I just know that however the game ends up shaking out when it comes down to the last 5 minutes, which, by the way, this game is going to come down to the final 5 minutes. Whatever happens in 55 minutes, it's probably going to be a 1-score game with 5 minutes to go, and whoever doesn't beat themselves in that moment will probably be the AFC team in the Super Bowl. And for the first time, I go into this game thinking I think the Bills can win whatever game, whatever identity this game takes on, that both of these teams are capable of winning it. And I genuinely do not believe that if the Baltimore Ravens went into Arrowhead next week, that they could say the same thing, that they could win any type of game. Doesn't matter. Is it a cage match? Is it doubles? Is it, a ladder match? It doesn't matter. I think this Bills team can win in a multitude of ways, and I think it's what makes them the most dangerous matchup for the Kansas City Chiefs.
So, Nate, let's talk a little bit about the matchups that we'll see on Sunday, because so much was made going into the Ravens game about the Ravens' size and their physicality and how they would match up against the Bills, both on the offensive and defensive fronts. What do we know going into Kansas City other than, hey, Chris Jones is still Chris Jones? Karlaftis had himself a day against the Houston Texans. And this is a Bills offensive line that for the majority of this season has been mauling their opponents. So you have to feel good about it, but at the same time, you've got a pretty significant test ahead. And then on the other side of the ball, can we get Rousseau? Can we get Ed Oliver to have the kind of games that we saw them have here the last couple of weeks where they are affecting plays, they are getting in that backfield?
Yeah, I'll start with, Josh Allen and the offense and the offensive line. And, listen, I think that Steve Spagnuolo is sort of the Bills' kryptonite, right? And I think he's largely – I cannot believe that we're going to get through another head coaching cycle and that guy's not going to get a head coaching job. He is just – the work he did by essentially bringing all-out blitzes in the second half of that game when the game was in the balance and completely just destroyed what the Houston Texans were trying to do. I mean, he made C.J. Stroud look like that was his first NFL game. And I don't think you can do that against Josh Allen. And I think Joe Brady's really prepared for a lot of what they might do if they're going to drop it in coverage. The Bills are going to have no problem saying, we believe our guys up front can win one-on-one. We'll hand it off to James Cook, to Ty Johnson, to Ray Davis. And then if you want to bring that safety back down in the box, well, then Josh Allen could beat you with his arm. So I'm pretty confident in the Bills' offense versus their defense, and Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins holding up. So I think a good but not great exterior pass rush of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, on the other side, I think one of the biggest things that the Bills are going to have to try to do is have to try to generate pressure. I don't believe you will see anything close to the game plan the Bills rolled out against the Baltimore Ravens, against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that, yes, you're right, Von Miller and Greg Rousseau. And how about this? I thought A.J. Epinesa played the best game of his freaking career and might not show up in the sacks, in the box score, but he made some plays setting the edge that I just were like, wow, these are pop plays from A.J. Epinesa. You don't get a lot of these from him. So I think for me, yes, the edge is going to be I think that's where their weakness is as an offensive line. The strength of it is in the middle, Trey Smith. And, I don't know if Joe Toney's going to play left tackle or if he's going to go back down to guard. And obviously Creed Humphrey is the best center in football. So if there's an exploitable area on this Chiefs team, it's on the offensive side. It's at the edges. It's at the tackle position. And my question will be is, I feel, again, more confident because, man, the Matt Milano we've seen the last 2 weeks looks as close to vintage as you could ask for. Having him spy and keeping his tabs on, I think, on Patrick Mahomes, I think you're going to see a lot of dime, a lot of nickel. And I think on third down, it's going to be 3 defensive linemen and Matt Milano following Patrick Mahomes around, and we'll see if it is effective as it was in week 6 or 8 or whenever they played.
It's Monday. It's Monday at 4:46. We have to wait until Sunday, and even still, when we get to Sunday, we're not going to be able to really enjoy the NFC Championship game because we're all going. You can't certainly. You're going to be on. You're going to be on the air there, Nate. But just a quick thought here, like Eagles, Commanders, Nate. It wouldn't surprise me if we have our first rookie quarterback starting in the Super Bowl.
I would tell you that if it comes down to which of these quarterbacks has to take this game and win it, give me Jaden Daniels 10 times out of 10. The poise, he is not a rookie quarterback when you watch him play. And, I think a divisional opponent, they face each other twice. Listen, they need to put up a game plan to do what the Bills did against Derrick Henry against Saquon Barkley, because if you can put the ball in the hands of Jalen Hurts in the pocket to win, they can win, and I think they can win going away. I do not believe they can win a football game if you force Jalen Hurts to beat you from the pocket. The problem is most teams haven't had that luxury this year because of how good Saquon's been. He's a great runner, Jalen Hurts. I just think even with their weapons, that Jaden Daniels can absolutely walk into Philadelphia next week and beat the Eagles. And, my best friend, huge Bills fan, his wife's an Eagles fan. And there's already a little bit of talk about house divided, because I'll tell you, if it's Bills-Eagles in the Super Bowl in 3 weeks, listen, the idea, I find myself, and I've heard a lot of fans calling in yesterday, I think that for the first time, I think in 2021 or whenever these two teams faced off in the AFC Championship game last, there probably wasn't a whole lot of people imagining what it would be like for this team, for this quarterback to be in the Super Bowl. I don't want to come off as cocky. This is they're going for the three-peat. They own the Bills in the playoffs, but man, I find myself imagining it, man.
Not to jump in, I know what the conversation was like. We were on the air. It was like, boy, wouldn't it figure that the Bills win the Super Bowl and we can't have a parade and we can't even get together or anything like that? I mean, that just seems weird that even happened in January, February 2021. This time we can all get together and enjoy this.
God, I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, what is that parade going to look like? And I probably in years past wouldn't allowed myself to listen. I didn't really allow myself to enjoy last week at all. I picked against the Bills a little bit because of reverse jinx, and I'm always wrong. But I think I didn't want to let myself believe they could win, and I'm probably going to go in with the same attitude this week because it's been working for me. And Notre Dame plays tonight. And listen, I'll say this though: if Notre Dame wins tonight, there's not a chance in hell the Bills aren't winning the Super Bowl. It's fate. It's fate.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up because I wanted to get, before we let you go, I wanted to get your take on tonight's matchup about what your Irish need to do to upset Ohio State here.
They need to do what the Bills did and what they've done all year, which is force a really good team to play your game. I think that Notre Dame, you listen to some of the coaches that have faced Notre Dame this year, the conversation is they play this boring brand of football that they make you play their style, and not a lot of teams can keep up with them in their style. And they're young, they don't kind of know better. I think their head coach has them. What you're seeing Notre Dame do is embody what their head coach is, and I think there's a lot of programs across the country that would pay a lot of money to have Marcus Freeman. I think there's a lot of NFL organizations that pay a lot of money to have Marcus Freeman. I can't tell you how stoked, how behind Marcus Freeman every Notre Dame fan I talk to is. And for the first time, his presence, who he is, how he operates, he's making people that have always hated Notre Dame go, man, I hate Notre Dame, but he's a cool dude. He's a cool customer. He's easy to root for. He really is. Where Brian Kelly, just like, hell, I don't think Notre Dame fans could have told you they would find themselves rooting against Notre Dame just because they hated him so much. Marcus Freeman's lovable. He's admirable. Listen, I mean, there's a good chance they don't have what it takes to beat this Ohio State team. But I'll tell you this, that if they do, I won't be surprised, and it'll be because Marcus Freeman, I think, is, if not the best coach in college football right now, one of the 2 or 3.
What time, 2 p.m. for the network this Sunday night?
1 p.m.
1 p.m.
Likely, and so it's a 6 o'clock game. It was 6:30 this week. So I'll be on at 1. Maybe network hops in around 2 o'clock. Maybe
Okay.
that's what it'll be. But yeah, I'll be on at 1 o'clock. Probably rolling 1-1 if they win. There's talks of Sports Thunder, which is an all-night radio show where we work till 5 a.m. My agent is going to be in contact with management, though, because I would be expensive past 2 a.m.
Man, it's great hearing your voice on a Victory Monday night. We hope we get the chance to talk to you again soon. Enjoy the week, and enjoy tonight, and enjoy this week, and we'll talk.
My pleasure, guys, and hopefully I held my own following the Hall of Famer, Mike Catalano. I was really worried about not holding my own. So,
Well,
you
I
don't have to
mean,
worry about
you're fine, mate. You're doing all right, bud.
Thanks, boys.
You got
Appreciate
it.
you.
There's Nate Geary, the Buffalo Bills Radio Network here this weekend on the Fan Rochester. You know what? I never thought about that, but that is like, oh, you're coming on after the Hall of Famer? It's a tough act to follow, Mike Catalana.
Dude.
Gary holds his own.
I do have a lot of people say, boy, every time you have Catalana on, like, yeah, he's got takes, he's got opinions. He could easily do a talk show. Maybe he's thought about it, but he's got his Buffalo Plus outlet, and if you haven't seen that, I invite you to check that out. Can we imagine this? The parade. He brought up the parade. Okay, it's out there. Would we do something in Rochester? Now, before you say, no, it's not our team, well, kind of, sort of, we have that training camp connection. I look at teams that have been regional. Take, for instance, again, here's the Red Sox. When the Red Sox won their first Danger, they did like a New England tour, Providence, Hartford, where it wasn't a parade, but they did a celebration. Would we have a celebration here in Rochester?
I could kind of look into the crystal ball and see how this would go. I think Buffalo undoubtedly gets the massive, massive party, the massive celebration, the parade, the whole nine. I think what we would end up getting is maybe like a parade to start training camp before training camp starts. A big parade, a big celebration.
Oh, no. I wouldn't see that at all.
That's how I would see it.
No, because by the time training camp comes around, you're on to the new season, spring, everything else. No, that's last year.
I'm not saying the Bills would want that. I'm saying that that's what our city would want. That's what people here would be like, oh, well, that's nice because we have training camp and I just know how provincial we are. With that, I feel like that's what they would organize.
Okay, here would be my suggestion. Ready? Yeah. You can't have the whole team, but could you get a Keon Cole? Could you get a handful of players, have a band, and Parcel 5? What would that look like in downtown Rochester?
It'd be fun.
Like if the Amerks win the Calder Cup, it was always, okay, we're going to go down Main Street and then end at City Hall, and there's a proclamation. We don't need to do that. It should be going the other direction. And then you end up at Parcel 5 and you're partying.
Just give me beer and I'll be happy, man. I mean,
that's
you.
you.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to go to Buffalo to do it, I'll do it. If it's in Rochester, great, I'll be there too. But yeah, just make sure there's beer there and I'll be fine.
Just not like the last parade you went through, the Patrick Cade and Buffalo one, where you're like, oh, that's it.
Yeah, kind of disappointed. Not just myself, but the entire family. Hey, at least I got to see the cup when Kaner brought it back through his hometown. Really appreciate Nate Geary, the Buffalo Bills Radio Network, stopping by and sharing some of his thoughts as the Bills advance to the AFC Championship against the Kansas City Chiefs coming up here on Sunday night. We've got happy hour on the way here in the sports bar.
Yeah, let's sneak in one of our regulars because Danger says I big-timed him. I didn't big-time him, but I know Brad from Rochester. We all know Brad from Rochester. What's up, bud?
If the Bills win the Super Bowl, half of Rochester isn't going to be in Rochester. They're all going to be going to Buffalo, whether they're sitting in the stadium, in Orchard Park, and parking everywhere, or Buffalo is just going to be overloaded. I'm already planning on, if it happens, I'm taking my kids out of school and we're going. That's really simple.
Yeah. I kind of
once in a lifetime thing.
I kind of agree with you. The entire region kind of descends on Buffalo, and Buffalo won't be able to handle it.
Well, you would do it downtown Buffalo, right? Because I've seen other teams like the Patriots were going to do it in their stadium, which, okay, for security purposes and what happened in Kansas City last year, you want to have some control over it.
Right.
But I really would like it in a place where, okay, anybody could go. Let's just do it downtown.
Yeah. Right. But you do want that control. and you need to be able to handle the influx of people. I mean, the stadium and around the stadium. Okay, downtown Buffalo support over 100,000 people in downtown Buffalo, all cramming into a.
Timeout. You said 100,000.
I'm just it's going to be more than that.
No. And Brad brought it up. I can't say 1 million because that's the actual population of Buffalo. But who in like I'm thinking at least over 500,000, 500,000.
Yeah. See, this is where you might have a better sense of what these parades pull in than I do. But I have no idea what the infrastructure. All I know is getting down to downtown Buffalo after a Sabres game and getting out of the stadium like you witnessed last night can be tricky if the weather's a factor. Do you have the infrastructure?
All right. Cleveland Cavaliers, there's a comp. Okay, a town that hadn't won a championship in forever. LeBron brings them the championship. Different because it's the spring. Estimated crowd, 1.3 million.
Ooh, in Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I would think 500,000 in Buffalo
500,000
would be
500,000 would be good.
Yeah.
500,000 would be conservative then, if you want to use that comp, sure. But Rochester would I think what Brad's saying is right on. I don't think there's anybody in Rochester that'd be waiting for our city officials, our leaders to organize something. No. We're going to go there. We're going to celebrate with the team, the official celebration. We're really getting ahead of ourselves. We've still got an AFC championship. We've still got a Super Bowl. I mean, the next 3 weeks are going to be crazy.
Wait a second. Timeout. Clip. Here in Kansas City, welcome to 96.5 The Fan. I'm Jay Bigley. How dare they talk a parade in Buffalo? Listen to Danger and Battaglia. Run the tape. Yeah.
When is Bink joining us this week? Wednesday, but listen anyways.
Wednesday. He's texting me last night. Yep, he's all excited.
Right.
Oh, yep. Yeah, how Patrick Mahomes is great and how he's the greatest quarterback.
Well, look, he's not wrong.
Nope.
He's not wrong. He's got rings. Going for a three-peat. We can't say that. We get to happy hour next. We have more of your calls on the way at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
It's the Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Kansas City opening as a 1.5 favorite. Head coach Sean McDermott says that Taylor Rapp is day-to-day. Corner Christian Benford is in concussion protocol. Linebacker Terrell Bernard and the importance of getting takeaways.
Stop the run and then take the ball away. We know who we have on the other side. We get the ball to 17. We feel like we got a great shot to win. And, that's what it comes down to, man. Our fundamentals and, our execution, but then the ball. And that's the key point that I feel like it's been all year for us. When we're successful taking the ball away, we have a good chance to win.
It's a 6:30 kickoff coming up from Arrowhead this Sunday. The Chicago Bears have hired Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their next head coach. Sabres trail in Seattle 2-1. They're in the second. That game on 96.5 WCMF. National championship game tonight, Ohio State against Notre Dame. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Here's the snap. Jackson rolling right, looking to toss it, and dropping the football. Incomplete is Mark Andrews. Wow. Celebrate, Bills Mafia. The Bills have won 27-25. Kansas City, here we come.
Mike Danger.
Not now when. Your team is playing really, really well. Kansas City is doing likewise, but you're healthy. You have a lot of talent. Like, if you're going to do it, this is the year to do it. This is the year to get past Kansas City.
Gene Battaglia.
This team's pretty good. We don't have to whisper this. We don't have to apologize. They may win the whole bleeping thing here.
Why not?
They're one win away from the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They are one win away from the Super Bowl.
When the Bills win by a billion.
It's a city of winners. It really is. It's a city of winners. These people in this town are winners.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour in the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Gino, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but in the history of the Super Bowl era in the NFL, 58 Super Bowls, 4 teams have made it to the conference championship with the hope of three-peating, much like the Kansas City Chiefs have done. 1976, the Pittsburgh Steelers were looking for that three-peat. They lost to the Oakland Raiders. In 1990, the San Francisco 49ers were looking for a three-peat. They lost to the New York Football Giants. 94, the Dallas Cowboys were going for their three-peat before they lost to the San Francisco 49ers. And in 2024, the Kansas City Chiefs, ...
Do you get the sense that as the week goes along, like if they give like a map, like who is America rooting for, and you'll see, it'll be Missouri and Kansas, and then the rest of the country
Correct.
Will be Buffalo.
And the same, I think, would be said for the Eagles and the Commanders. I think the rest of the country will be rooting for the Commanders outside of the Philadelphia area because America loves the underdog, and America wants to see something different. And a repeat of what we had just a couple of seasons ago in the Super Bowl between Philly and Kansas City would not be that exciting.
Yeah, and somehow bad officiating has become synonymous with Kansas City winning, which...
Well, if there's one thing that has me discouraged today, and it's a victory Monday, so shame on me, I didn't have the Bruno Martino queued up. We'll get to it in a second.
We'll get to it, yeah.
The idea that Clete Blakeman is calling the game on Sunday. You didn't have to bring that up to me.
No.
You brought that up to me, and now my mood is completely altered because if there's one official in the NFL that just it evokes just anger out of me. And this is a hatred that has lasted over 15 years. I just can't handle this guy officiating in the NFL. The worst. Everybody has their guy. I don't know if everybody agrees that it's Clete Blakeman. For me, it's Clete Blakeman, hands down. You can throw anybody you want to at me. I'd be like, nope, not as bad as Clete. Clete is the worst.
Well, who would that benefit? And the stats show his officiating crew, Danger, has called the most flags, an average of 15 per game. Nobody wants to see that. Well, if you're going to get defensive pass interference or holding or any of those things, who would that benefit more in this game?
Right. Well, I'm glad that we aren't talking about that today. I don't know what we're going to be talking about a week from today, but right now we should just kick back Maybe pour yourself a nice tumbler of something brown. Light a victory cigar as the Bills advance to the AFC Championship after beating the Ravens last night. As is tradition in the sports bar on a Victory Monday, some Bruno Martino. You know, we got to get Dan DeLorean. Get me the highlight or the low light of Andrews dropping the 2-point conversion. Just mix it into the Bruno Martino song. Now we're talking.
Oh, I could just listen to this guy. When the season's all over, I might just play this on repeat. This hasn't burned out for me. I really would love to know what he's actually saying, though.
Roma non fa la stupida stasera. I got to brush up on my Italian. I'm going this summer.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know if I play some Bruno Martino if I'm rolling around the countryside of Italy this summer, how that gets received. What's this gringo doing?
Can you ask your in-laws, like, what is this guy actually singing in this song?
We'll get a translation. If
you're new to the show and maybe you're just searching out, hey, I want some Bill Sports Talk, well, welcome. You found the Sports Bar. My name is Gene Battaglia. He's Mike Danger. Why on earth are we playing Italian music? Here's the story. On this frequency, Joe Capogreco, I want to say since 1925, and maybe it's not that long, but on every Sunday morning, he's hosting an Italian radio show.
The longest running Italian radio show in America, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. It might be the only one for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're a sports format who plays 2 hours of Italian music every Sunday morning from 7 to 9. And in Danger's little button board there, he's got everything filed away between sound bites and everything else. Somehow we landed on the topic the day after beating the Arizona Cardinals week 1, Bruno Mars. And instead of hitting a Bruno Mars soundbite, a song, a little bumper, you hit that. But you know what? It worked.
Yeah, it did. It kind of fit nicely. So we've been kind of leaning into it all season long on a Victory Monday. We just play a little Bruno Martino. We're not superstitious or anything. Okay, maybe we're quite superstitious.
Okay, so if you were at the game last night, or maybe you were watching at home because it did come across, it was a little too soon there to be playing the Killers, in my opinion.
Well, they went to the Killers. It almost felt like, we've got an 8-point lead, and now we really need to kind of clamp down. And when they got that 8-point lead on the leg of Tyler Bass, I'm like, ugh, I get it. It's the right call, but I don't love it because this is going to be overtime. This is going to lead to overtime. And if the Ravens managed it the way you would think they would have managed it, the way the Bills managed the end of the first half, frankly, I mean, they held onto the ball. They scored when they needed to score, left the opponent with nothing to do but kneel. Then I could have seen it going to overtime. They scored relatively quickly with 1:33 left. I'm like, no, this is actually good. If they convert the 2-point conversion, the Bills get the ball back. You have to have all the confidence in the world that Josh Allen is going to do Josh Allen things and that this conservative game plan would open up a little bit so you can get into field goal range and win this game.
The scenario, 3 things would have to happen, right? And they'd have to be all in order. Number 1, score the touchdown. That happened. Number 2, 2-point conversion. And then when you do that, you've got to get a stop to Josh Allen. 1:33, 2 timeouts remaining. Look, I didn't realize Jeremy White had the same take this morning. Jeremy, we love you. I'm sorry I had the same take too. That's no different than what happened last year. Tyler Bass misses the field goal. Shame on you. Shame on you, Tyler Bass. Really? Patrick Mahomes would have driven into field goal range and you would have lost the game that way.
It's funny. When they lost last year to the Chiefs on that missed field goal, I didn't once say, well, it's all Tyler Bass's fault. That doesn't rank anywhere near the disappointing losses or the way that they've lost some of these games. And I guess what felt different about yesterday was that's the kind of thing that traditionally happens to the Bills. It feels different when you see it actually happen to another team. I'm talking about Andrews dropping the 2-point conversion that would have tied the game. It didn't mean that the Ravens were going to win the game or that the game was guaranteed to go to overtime, but it's the kind of play that if you're a Bills fan and that happens to you, you remember it, and it's something you will hold on to for a long time. And I remember, he's come on the show with us a couple of times in the past, and I think he actually said this when he was on with us one time. It's Tim Graham from The Athletic.
He did.
When we kind of visit, what's it going to take, Tim? I mean, what's it going to take for this team to finally get over the hump? And, he said there's a lot of factors that go into it. A lot of times it's health. But you know what? Sometimes you're just unlucky. And unlucky, he was talking specifically about the health of a team, right? Like the Bills at the end of last season were not a healthy team. You had A.J. Klein out there. He had no business being out there, right? He was on vacation with his family a week earlier.
Yeah.
So when you see a play like what you saw last night with Andrews dropping the 2-point conversion, it was just such a relief and so refreshing when we've lived through 13 seconds and wide right and the Music City Miracle. And, like those are the kind of plays that I think Bills fans have become accustomed to their team making. And to see the Ravens kind of fall on their face, whether you're talking about the drop, the Lamar fumble certainly looked like he was being affected, but he was not protecting the football early in the game. He did not have a good first half. The Bills didn't have to do a lot. They won the game, but part of why they won the game was they allowed the Ravens to fall on their face, almost as if they knew the Ravens can fall on their face.
Do you remember this? Like, it's happened to the Ravens before, but New England once upon a time did just enough to beat the Ravens. It was a drop 2-point conversion from Lee Evans in the end zone. But the point is that New England wins all these games. Kansas City wins all these games. And you didn't need the rocket arm of Josh Allen. You didn't need to run up the score. These are how these games are played. And you and I have been as critical as anybody, as any show in our region of Sean McDermott.
We can be a little bit more critical, I think, because we're out of the blast zone, right? We're not in Buffalo.
I'm not getting the call afterward from the Bills PR department like, hey, we need to sit down here. I think we're fair, though, and when we do criticize. But when you see a game plan like last night, a team that in Buffalo didn't turn the ball over, and I'm going to say it this way, that didn't commit a penalty. They got called for a penalty, but they didn't commit a penalty in a playoff game. That's being prepared. And yes, there were some misassignments on defense. Yes, it was tough, even with a 6-man front. Guess what? Baltimore's a really good team. We said, and I still believe it, that was the toughest matchup in terms of personnel. Oh, the Bills really don't match up well. Well, you know what? The Bills, Sean McDermott, he outcoached John Harbaugh in that game.
Yeah, blitzed when he needed to blitz, got home when they needed to get home. And a couple of individual performances that I don't think we're going to forget anytime soon. One, I think the play that kind of felt like it sealed the game for the Bills wasn't the drop by Andrews, but it was the fumble by Andrews. It was the peanut punch. It was the Terrell Bernard peanut punch. That wasn't on Andrews. I don't think there's a single receiver or tight end in the NFL that holds onto that ball. It was just a perfect forced fumble, just great technique by Bernard. The play of the game, in my opinion, punching out the ball from Andrews, and the Bills capitalizing it with the eventual field goal there that would make it an 8-point game and put it out of reach for the Ravens. That was spectacular. I will also say Matt Milano, exquisite. Kind of drew the assignment of spying Lamar throughout the course of the game. I know a lot of people believe that Milano rushing Lamar forced the first interception, but I also think that a bigger play was even the first 2-point attempt by the Ravens, where and both 2-point attempts, by the way, I think were the right call. I think Todd Monken dialed up the right call. The first one specifically had the Bills confused. If you go back and watch, you'll see 2 Bills defenders kind of following the same guy, I think following Henry, and they were confused. They weren't lined up properly. It's Milano getting the hand on the ball, tipping the ball, preventing that 2-point conversion that adds the pressure to Lamar and the offense for when they eventually score again and have to get another 2-point conversion. Milano was fantastic. Those two, the linebackers being absent from the first meeting were everything in the outcome of that first meeting in Week 4. This was a stellar performance by the Bills defense, specifically Milano and Bernard. They're important.
News today, Benford concussion protocol. I don't know when that happened. All right, so I guess
he was out there against Andrews on the 2-point conversion. I mean, he played through the game.
Yeah, so it might have been one of those things where you're experiencing symptoms today. Who knows? I guess we'll learn. And then Taylor Rapp, day-to-day, which I think will sign up. Anytime the card's coming off, It was some sort of hip injury. Maybe it was a hip pointer. Look, Cole Bishop will have his day, but if you get Taylor Rapp back for this game, yeah, that would be big. We want to hear from you, Bills fans. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. John from Rochester was at the game last night. Hey, John.
Hey, how are we doing today? I'm coming a little late to your show today because I was working, but what a game. It was cold, of course, as you guys know. So, of course, that affected the game. But I'm telling you, a home field advantage was the biggest thing. I was in section 129. It was just an awesome win. Nobody left their seats the whole game. I got home at almost 4 a.m. because I couldn't. Everybody got out at the same time.
Yeah.
But we're trying to enjoy this thing. We're trying to believe. I mean, I've been through it all. I'm 60 years old. I had an opportunity yesterday with my 30-year-old son to watch this win. And year after year after year, there's just always one thing that breaks or last second. And, the whole section was just like, stop Derrick Henry. And then I was right on the 5-yard line right when he dropped that 2-point conversion there. And the section just went berserk. And then just trying to not go over the board because we still have the onside kick to deal with because we're Buffalo fans and we know things happen. So we're just trying to get through it. And, the crowd's chanting MVP constantly for Josh Allen and just getting through it. But finally, it was our turn to come out on this thing, and I couldn't enjoy it more. And it was just an overall spectacular home field advantage win, and I hope we could take it into Kansas City next week.
Well, John, don't be a stranger, and I'm glad that – how many hours of sleep did you get, bud?
Oh, not much. That's like coming home. It was a tough drive on the thruway, too. It was icy road starting and just trying to get out of the parking lot. We tried to hang out for a while, but it was just, nobody left their seats till the very end. So, of course, caused it. But I'm telling you, it was a great pregame, great, tailgate. Some Ravens fans walking around wanting to see some Bills going through tables and things of that nature, but it wasn't packed with Ravens fans, at least in the tailgate sections that I was in. But they were there. They had their belief, and they were hoping that something went wrong. But this time, finally, it's the Bills' time.
John, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. And thanks for sharing those experiences. Yeah, Danger, that was one of, if not the worst drives back. If you went to the game, I didn't get home till 2 a.m. and the throughway going the way back, like all the snow, it didn't line up. It was all the whole way back. It was brutal.
Yeah, no, I think everybody today is a little groggy, but you're kind of being fueled by the adrenaline. I mean, even if you weren't at the game, and I wasn't at the game, admittedly, I was watching from the comfort of my living room. I was wired, man. I wasn't falling asleep. Like, that was an exhilarating win. The game, the way it all played out, the way it ended, and John's right. Even on the onside kick, you're like holding your breath a little bit. Okay, Taron Johnson got it. All right, we're good. We're good. They're gonna win this thing. Like it was tight to the end, and boy, the way it was going in the second half. He talked about stopping Henry. I mean, the first half you had defensively, you had his number, 21 yards on 8 carries in the first half. Then you saw what Derrick Henry is in the second half, and I don't know that the Bills were able to make that adjustment. But when you're carrying the ball for over 8.3 yards per carry there in the second half, as Henry did, I can understand why Ravens fans are wondering why you didn't just give him the ball for those 2-point conversions, or why you didn't just keep feeding him. The Ravens had just 4 read option running plays against the Bills, and there wasn't a single time that Lamar actually kept the ball.
And Sean McDermott had kind of addressed that. He was surprised by that. Like, you want to, like, for again, coaching. Don't outthink it. Now, that being said, Danger, like, there were some drives like, there were just receivers open downfield. Like, you're watching this, like, okay, this shouldn't be. So, but the Bills tightened up. That's also 2 straight games. Those have fallen them behind 7-0 right off the gate. So, if things start to go just a little sideways at Arrowhead, and they probably will at some point, this is a team that has shown, okay, here's a little bit of adversity. Let's just kind of get back to it.
Right. I view it as kind of like, it's like a boxing match. I think, okay, give us your best punch. First punch. Boom. Okay, you're going to score. Now we know what what that feels like. We know what we're going to adjust to, or how we're going to adjust, and we will. And you're going to have to take our best punch. It's happened so often now, so frequently in these games where the Bills are underdogs or the Bills, there's a lot on the line, that I don't even really worry about it anymore. Like, when was the last time the Bills were behind and you're like, oh boy, this ain't good?
The first Baltimore game.
It was the first Baltimore game. It's like, not our night.
No, the Houston game, you had the ball at the end. Like every Bills game, you always seemingly have a chance if you're not ahead in the fourth quarter.
And you know what? Just to put an exclamation point on what John was saying, and I love everything about that, being able to be at the game, enjoy the game, be there with your son, create these massive memories. Everybody that went to a Bills game this year can hold on to this memory, and cherish the idea that this Buffalo Bills team went undefeated at home this season. They didn't lose a single home game for the entirety of the 2024 season. Their last loss, of course, coming on that missed Tyler Bass field goal that we talked about in the divisional round last year against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, a great job. Wouldn't it be something if the Buffalo Bills ended their tenure at Highmark Stadium before they go into the new stadium and they don't lose? Like, if that's their last loss. The last loss was that loss to the Chiefs in the divisional round, and they just kept winning at Old Highmark before they changed gears to the new Palace right across the street.
That would be something. Up 10-0 at home this season. One call here, but we'll sneak in. Then we got shots coming up. Luke in Rochester. Welcome, Luke.
Hey, guys. I like your thinking today. Listen, Gary kind of made me realize that the Bills are really a good team. And you guys sort of went off and talked about possible parade. I think it could happen. However, last night was really concerning for me. Joe Brady had 36 rushing attempts, 22 passing attempts. Bills could have blown the Ravens out in the second half when they received the kickoff where they were up by 11. If they actually passed the ball. You got Tony Romo, as the game was tightening, talking about how the ball should be in Josh Allen's hands at least 2 out of the 3 downs. And he's repeating it several times. And it's not the first game they said that involving the Bills. I think the last time they played Kansas City might have been the other time. But I can't wait for Brady to leave, and he should take McDermott.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh, Luke. Okay, Luke.
Time out.
No, Luke, you've got to be okay.
Luke is a vibe. Luke just hates every coach. I think Luke doesn't like authority at all. Any coach, any team, like if it's not McDermott, it's Brady. Luke, are you out of your mind, dude? Luke, that guy is going to be. If we're lucky, we have him as an offensive coordinator again next year because he's going to be a head coach in the NFL. And he's going to be a head coach in the NFL because he knows when to put his foot on the gas and he knows when to take it off. And he's working hand in hand with the head coach who you've called on this show to be fired multiple times. And a lot of times for no reason other than you just don't like the guy. Luke, come on. Come on, man. We're better than that. This show is better than that. You need to be better than that. It's a victory Monday. They just beat the team that gives them the most matchup difficulties in the NFL. They just beat them and advanced. And you want to see, you can't wait for Joe Brady to leave? Luke, banned. Whoa. Banned. You're done. I'm executive powers in the sports bar. Luke has been banned from the show. You heard me.
Wow.
And Luke,
we've never banned anybody before.
It's nothing personal.
Oh, it is personal.
No. If Luke came out to Three Heads and we had a beer, I would say the same thing to him. Luke, I don't know what's going on in your life, buddy. I hope you're okay. But to call up on a Victory Monday and say, I can't wait for Joe Brady to leave? Dude, check yourself. You're banned.
Here's where he's wrong. Okay. And
I've
just
one?
I've heard this, Brady's game plan. Can we review the 2 drives? Because everybody's thinking double dip. hand off to Cook with a 6-man front. You only get the 1 yard. Past the Dalton, Kincaid needs to catch that ball.
Yes.
It's an execution thing on that drive. And then the third is blown up because, well, guys got through. Again, execution drop problem. Well, why is Brady calling, the screen to Dawson Knox? Timeout. That was a Josh Allen check at the line of scrimmage. Now, you could say, don't let Josh Allen do that, but that 3rd and 5 play.
You got a quarterback who is so disciplined this year and so protective of the football this year, not turning the ball over this year. And maybe he's not throwing it downfield the way you want to, but on a night where it's 10 degrees and the ball is slippery and nobody's making catches downfield, I have zero issue with it. Yes. Was it conservative? Yes. Did they win the game? Yes. Luke, come on. I'm stunned. I'm speechless. He's called in so many times in the past, we need to fire Sean McDermott. I've been critical of Sean McDermott. You've been critical of Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott is not being fired, and Joe Brady, we shouldn't be calling up on a Victory Monday saying, I can't wait for Joe Brady to not be here anymore. Are you out of your freaking mind? Luke, be better and do it somewhere else. You're banned.
Okay, I'm going to raise my hand here. Mike Danger, hi, I'm the call screener of the show. What do I tell somebody who has been banned? Wow, here's the list. Luke from Rochester.
That's right.
Banned.
That's right. Congratulations,
Luke. You can still listen. You're welcome to listen. You're just not going to get on the air.
We appreciate it, Luke. You are on the list, 1 of 1. That is the worst call we have taken in the history of this show. That is the worst call we have taken in the – how many years have we been on the air?
This is going to be coming up on year number 9.
We're coming up on year number 9.
9 times.
That is the worst call we have taken in the history of the sports bar. Luke, you're banned. I'm sure you're a wonderful guy. I'll buy you a beer, but you're not getting on the air anymore with your terrible takes. Get out of here. That was the worst call we have ever taken. My mood has changed because of that call. Come on!
Hit the music. Hit the music. Hit it.
All right. Let's get to a round of shots. Jesus.
Coming up in shots, as Mike Danger takes some deep breaths, we'll be talking about the national championship game tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame. The Amherst still in first place. Big signing in baseball today. And a Take of the Year nominee. Mike Danger, this will put you in a good mood as I'm going to submit this take from the world of tennis coming up as we listen in on the sports bar. Feeling better, buddy?
A round of shots on the way next on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening update.
AFC Championship game, Buffalo and Kansas City. The Chiefs a 1.5-point favorite. Injury updates. Taylor Rapp day-to-day. Corner Christian Benford is in concussion protocol. Head coach Sean McDermott on going to Kansas City.
Looking forward to it. Great challenge. Again, another great team. Certainly well coached. Coach Reed does a phenomenal job. He and his staff. Tough challenge.
Our coverage on the Fan Rochester Sunday will begin at 2 o'clock. The Chicago Bears have hired Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their next head coach. The Sabres are trailing in Seattle 4-3. They're in the second. If you want Sabres hockey, that game on 96.5 WCMF. College football's national championship game is tonight. The Ohio State taking on Notre Dame. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks. Your home for live sports is 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Back in the sports bar, it's Danger and Battaglia. Time for a round of shots.
Yeah, as we mentioned, game tonight. It just feels really kind of weird. We're still playing college football, or is that just me? For all the success Notre Dame and Ohio State have played in their relative proximity, tonight's only going to mark the 9th time these schools have met.
How many times have they met?
9 times.
There you go. The last time the Irish beat the Buckeyes, the year 1936.
Whoa.
Yeah. More recently, they met in the 2006 and 2016 Fiesta Bowls. Ohio State winning both. 7:30 the kickoff tonight on ESPN. Ohio State, an 8.5-point favorite.
I just don't want this game to be one-sided. That's all I'm asking for. I really don't have a rooting interest. I know a lot of people are going to be rooting for the Irish, and you want the underdog to win, and you have ties to Notre Dame, and I think all that's great. I just want it to be – I don't want it to be a rout.
No, I mean, I think a lot of us just don't have any skin.
Give me a good game.
Yeah. Amerks completed their first 3-game in 3-day stretch. Not bad. Sunday, they lost in Hershey. You probably didn't even notice this because shame on you, Hershey, putting this game at the same time as Bills football or an NFL playoff football. 5-4 was the final yesterday. Rochester getting 3 of a possible 6 points of the weekend. That still keeps them in first place in the division. Team back on the road this weekend. It's the New England trip. Providence Friday, Hartford on Saturday. We'll talk to head coach Mike Leone tomorrow at 4:25.
I heard he got real fiery Friday night at home against Lehigh Valley, a goal that was disallowed and then a goal that was reversed in the shootout. I want to get his take on AHL officiating and AHL video review because I think there's some confusion as to what can be reviewed via video and what can't. And I have a feeling he'll have some strong opinions on that tomorrow when we have him on.
Yeah. Poor guy, though. Big Lions fan.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now, do we bring that up with him? Not sure. Pop quiz. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, both 1 and 2 in home runs in the majors last year. Who was third? Well, I'll tell you the answer. The guy who was third just switched teams. The Toronto Blue Jays have signed outfielder Anthony Santander to a 5-year, $90 million deal. Santander with 44 homers with Baltimore last season.
Another reason to go up north of the border if you want to go check out some Major League Baseball. It's Rogers Center there, the Jays. Now they got a massive bat.
I thought things were going to be different in Baltimore. I thought new owner, we're going to spend a little money, and you can't bring this guy back, but we'll see. Many baseball teams this time of year, Danger, have Fan Fest, right? Everyone looking forward to warmer days, but there was one team that really botched this. That being the Pittsburgh Pirates. While it was good that they had one of their all-time greats, who, by the way, is still on the team, Andrew McCutchen, he was signing autographs. What's not good is that his nameplate was misspelled.
Oh.
And then you put the nameplate misspelled and to picture him on all your social media accounts.
Oh.
And that's how we all kind of...
Sabres level tomfoolery happening with that organization.
Oh, but it gets better because they decided to trot out their CEO with a fan Q&A right at the beginning, a sell the team chant breaking out.
Here we go.
That's when the moderator told Pirate fans to be respectful. One fan asked GM Ben Cherington if the team could extend Paul Skeens and O'Neal Cruz so they won't have to trade them for, quote, hot garbage like we always do. Owner Bob Nutting was not in attendance.
Well, that's why I was saying it with my tongue in cheek last year. As Skeens is blowing up, just trade him. Trade him now because you're never going to get anything of value more so than you get him right now. You're going to trade him, 3, 4, 5 years from now when you can't afford him or you don't want to pay him, and then you're going to get hot garbage in return?
You could make a whole promotion out of it. You could say, hey, tonight Paul Skeens will play his last game before we trade him. Come on out now and show your appreciation.
And did I see the Dodgers make another big signing as well?
Yes, they got the guy from Japan.
Oh, my God.
Baseball, for as exciting as that was, it's a mess. It really is like two levels.
Yeah.
It's the Dodgers are going to win again this year.
Going to defer all that money to the year 2070 and everything will work out. We'll deal with it down the road. We'll just keep kicking the can down the road.
Finally, Danger, I have a soundbite I would like to nominate as our first take of the year.
Ah, good. Take of the year.
Okay, so here's the background, okay? Daniel Collins is playing in the third round against a local Aussie. Her name is Destiny Ieva. The crowd, of course, in favor of the Aussie. Yeah. Well, Collins wins, and she's getting booed. Well, first, she puts her hand to her ear like she's some sort of wrestler, asking for more booze.
Uh-huh.
Then she starts blowing kisses, and then she smacks her own backside to say, kiss it kind of thing.
Oh, kiss my ass.
But then they decide to give her the mic.
Danielle, congratulations. That was a roller coaster of a ride.
Yeah, I mean, Destiny.
Wow.
You know, I was thinking during the match, I was like, if I'm out here, I might as well just take that big fat paycheck. And Coco and I we love a good 5-star vacation. So part of that check is going to go towards that. So thank you guys. Thanks for coming out here and supporting us tonight.
Wow. Now, Coco, is she talking about golf?
Coco Gauff, yeah.
Because she's American as well.
She's American. They must be doubles partners. But I love that because she pauses and she's like, am I going to go there? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, go full heel.
Go feel it. My new favorite tennis player, Mike Danger, do you accept that as a Take of the Year nominee?
The crowd's they're going wild. Absolutely. She's in. She dealt with those boos with just class and professionalism. I mean, that was a chorus of boos, and all she did was win. Because she beat an Aussie? Because she's an ugly American? What is it? What was it?
Normally, you don't have somebody smack her backside to say, kiss my ass.
I love it.
Can you play that again?
Yeah.
And listen to the pause here where she's like, okay, I'm going to go for it.
Danielle, congratulations. That was a roller coaster of a ride.
Yeah, I mean, Destiny.
Destiny is calling me.
I was thinking during the match, I was like, if I'm out here, I might as well just take that big fat paycheck. And Coco and I we love a good 5-star vacation. So part of that check is going to go towards that. So thank you guys. Thanks for coming out here and supporting us tonight.
Yeah, that's worthy.
Yes.
What else is great about that? And this is a radio, so you don't see the video that it's associated with. But she grabs the mic from the guy.
From the guy, yeah.
She goes like full WWE heel and like is egging him on. What do you guys think of that? It doesn't matter what you think. Just gonna take that check. Good for her. Take of the Year nominee number 1. We have one.
There we go. We're
Danielle
off and running.
Collins at the Australian Open.
We banned somebody from the show today.
Oh, man. The
Wow.
worst call. The worst call in the history of the sports bar. I'm labeling it that because I believe it was. I mean, it had some promise. I wanted to believe he wasn't going to go there. But as always, Luke from Rochester has to go to the fire everybody card. Terrible. Fun show. If you missed Nate Gary, if you missed Mike Catalana, you can get those conversations wherever you pod. Search out the Sports Bar in the free-to-download Odyssey app as well. We are back tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock with a brand new episode. Matt Perino, Mike Leone, Michael F. Florio, JR Sport Brief next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the